Journalists usually are the worst people.
What did the TVNZ newsroom look like 45 years ago, 46 years ago?
Well,
Smoking?
Yeah, smoking. There was ashtrays, smoking was compulsory.
When you look back at that young version of yourself, what do you admire about him and what makes you cringe?
Oh, jeepers. There are all sorts of things that make you cringe. We also stole a bus one night. It always amazed me how better you live when you're poor than when you're actually earning money.
You're like an ambassador and a spokesperson for Men's Health.
Yeah, well, I'm the director of it now. Men die from preventable diseases, so we've got to do something to stop that.
What are your thoughts on the current state of New Zealand media?
Well, it's just...
Oh, good, you're here. Come on. This is the centre of performance. Whenever there's a top performance in New Zealand, it all comes from here. That's Lisa Carrington. She's been doing that for days. That's the boy who got the hole-in-one in Tokyo. Oh, he did it again. Hey, Finn, how's the performance going?
Top tier.
Nice. This is our Generate room. In here, you'll find our top performers helping Kiwis maximise their KiwiSaver investments. Get in here, Finn. Maximise. Right, Generate. Putting performance first.
Mark Sainsbury, Sainso, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks, Dom.
This is really, really exciting for me.
Well, I thought it would be.
Well, we just went to the coffee store next door and you shouted me a coffee, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but even though you haven't been on TV on a nightly basis for a long time, people still look at you like you've got a face that they know from somewhere.
Yeah, and of course I still got them. I'd be interested if I shaved the mo off, whether you would still get that. But yeah, it tends to be a sort of generational. When the worst thing is, you'll be out somewhere and you've got a mate going, "Oh, you must remember Mark. He was on TV," and they're going, "Oh, trying to be sort of, going, I've got no idea who that guy is, But yeah, so I worked for TVNZ for a long time, and it was great fun. It really was good fun.
Yeah, so you spent decades getting the truth out of other people. How comfortable are you when someone like me tries to get the truth out of you?
It's always funny. I mean, it's always when the boot's on the other foot. It never is. Journalists usually are the worst people. Some love it. Some will talk about themselves sort of endlessly. You get used to asking other people questions and not so much taking them yourself.
Because from what I can gather, this is your first ever long-form podcast interview. There's a few bits and pieces online, like things you've done with Duncan Garner, things you've done with Matt and Jerry on Holdaki, but nothing.
Well, so I always, and when I was in the job, when I got the close-up gig, and I'd worked up with Paul Holmes. When Paul was there, but everything centred around Paul. The reporters were sort of like second-class citizens in the thing. And I always thought if I was ever there, I want to be more, you don't have to grab all the limelight yourself. You want to try and share the love. I also avoided doing any interviews or publicity stuff and everything like that, which people used to get paid for doing it back in those days, some of them. But I was always of the view that if you didn't push yourself and your family out there, if your kids got into some kind of shit, you could say, look, hey, I've never used them, they've never been part of the deal, so, piss off, don't try and, but if you're out there hawking yourself and your family story and, look, Mark at home with the kids and Mark at home and all this sort of stuff, then you bring it on. So that's why. So I always tried to sort of take a bit of a step back, and it was a bit, I suppose, of the old-fashioned thing. You weren't the story. Even though that 7 o'clock slot became personality-focused, it was more about other people, Did that sound sincere?
No, it's sincere, and it makes perfect sense as well, because it's like a double-edged sword. You can't control the narrative when it suits you.
No,
you can't do like a fluff piece for Women's Day.
Yeah,
and then if your kid gets done for drunk driving, say actually I don't want this in the news.
Yeah, the next thing you get is the old line you used to be. Now we're going to be doing the story with or without you.
Yeah. So you're 69 now, 70 later this year.
Yeah.
How are you? How's the health?
Our health is actually pretty good. I've lost weight over the last few years.
You're looking lean.
Yeah, but I keep running into, and I've been lean for a while, but I keep running into people who haven't seen me in ages. You're all right. And you could see that. You could say, you know exactly what they're thinking. And I always go, well, I've got to give a little page if you could start. If you could start filling that up, it'd be really appreciated.
What did you do? Because, there was a couple of pieces online I read, and you've lost like 15 or 20 kilos a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but over probably 18 months or so.
Yeah.
It wasn't sort of went on some big dramatic thing or whatever. I was on... at that stage, I think I was pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic. I was on blood pressure meds, and I thought I've got to do something, so cut back on the piss, basically. So I love a drink, but, maybe 2 nights a week max, But it's not regimented, but just conscious of that. And smaller meals was we used to eat just cute. And I love food and all that stuff. So that was the genesis of it. And just gradually over time. And but it's... Yeah, I still get, it's funny, isn't it? Oh, we preferred you when you were fatter.
Because you're like an ambassador and a spokesperson for Men's Health.
Yeah, well, I'm the director of it now. There's a mate of mine called Timmy Green, and he was working for these Aussies who were running it, and they were about to bail New Zealand, and he said, look, we've got to keep this thing going. So he and I run it. And it's just an awareness campaign. We don't rattle a tin. It's not about money. So, I mean, we keep the thing afloat. I mean, the master builders have sponsored it since the beginning because construction industry, major health issues, suicide, all sorts of things. So they're really serious about it. So we keep it going. We call on mates, like Jeremy Wells. I mean, you're going to be up next, Dom. We'll twist their arm, and that's what we use to sort of just get publicity over that 1 week. And the whole idea is, look, men die from preventable diseases, so we've got to do something to stop that. So things like heart disease, suicide. Suicide's one of the biggest, preventable killers of men. So it's that sort of stuff. So it's purely an awareness campaign, and if we can persuade just a few guys just to make little changes. We don't lecture, but small changes. And on our website, menshealthweek.co.nz, we've got this thing called Watch Your Score, and you can go on and do Watch Your Score and check, and it's just all sorts of prompts. That's our centrepiece. So, yeah, we're just trying to encourage guys. That's what it's about, because the health stats from men are pretty bad. Men live 4 years less than women do. Maybe they want to, who knows? But and the other thing is, if you're Maori, you've got a Maori male has a 1 in 2 chance of qualifying for the pension. Because they die under 65. 48% die under 65.
Genetics or lifestyle factors, or both?
There was lifestyle factors, there's all sorts of things. I mean, and environmental factors. There's just the fact that it's access to a doctor. See, a lot of the stuff, I was talking to someone who you've had on your show, Scott Beard. He got cancer 3 times. So what saved him? He went to a doctor. He went to a doctor instead of taking the concrete pill. And a lot of guys, I don't need to go along. Oh, yeah, whatever. This, no good comes from going to the doctor. So that's a big, big factor. Or accessibility. Not everyone, like you and I, can afford to go to a doctor or has access to one. So instead of getting down, I can hear what people say, oh, well, they're all at the KFC, they deserve it. No, we've got to look. There's a problem. Figure out how we can solve it rather than looking at who's to blame. So that's us.
And... So you've had a hip replacement?
Yeah.
When was that?
Well, see, this is an interesting thing, the hip replacement. That was a couple of years ago. And to tell you, I don't wish that on anyone. It would we should be walking along, you'd stumble. I was at a mate's birthday party. He had a 64th. He's a big Beatles fan, and so he had a 64th birthday party.
Oh, will you still need me? Will you still feed me?
Yeah. And a guy called Keith Tannock and Catherine Bonner was down south. And I remember walking along their deck. Ooh, hip went, tripped on the deck, and could see everyone go, Sainsbury pissed again, And all that, you'd be walking down the road, and the pain. So
this was pre or post operation? Pre, right.
So you go along to these things. Now, here's an interesting tale. You go along to this clinic, you see, which is the orthopaedic clinic at the hospital. And I thought, now before I go, I'm going to pay to go and see a specialist, so I know what's going on. I go and see this guy called Peter Devane. He says, yep, well, you got this. You'll go to this clinic and you have no chance of getting it done. Oh, thanks, Peter. He says, look, I'm not trying to be mean, but there'll be 100 people presenting worse than you. You need to come and see someone like me and go private. I said, well, I've got no insurance. I'm not going private. I'm going to have a crack at this. So I go along to the clinic. Who's running it? Peter Devane. And he says, I told you, it's not looking good. Anyway, so I go through, get this letter saying you recently went to the orthopaedic clinic for a hip replacement. Your surgeons recommended you for surgery. You would benefit from the surgery, but we run a priority system, and unfortunately, you don't make the cut. Okay, fair enough, all right? Then came the bit that just pissed me off. We recommend you go back to your GP and look at alternative providers, including private. What the fuck? You're telling me, you, the state, are telling me I should go and pay for it myself. That's what you're saying. Now, I can understand it, the priority thing and all that sort of stuff, but when they started saying go and pay for it yourself, I thought, I was so pissed off. I thought about going public. Then, it looks like you're just trying to leverage your way up the queue, So I was sitting on a plane going up to Auckland, and I look across the aisle. Oh, who's that? The leader of the Labour Party. is standing up, Andrew, and also was the health minister at the time. How are you going, says Andrew. I said, oh, yeah, not bad. I said, I need a hip replacement, but apart from that, oh, well, of course, we'll put in lots of elective, posts and da-da-da. I said, look, yeah, I've got no problem with that, and Andrew. And look, but, what really pissed me off was getting a letter from the DHB, who they were dismantling at the time, to say that they're go and pay for it yourself. What? I'd like to see that letter. I said, look, the reason I never didn't send it to begin with is I don't want this used as some kind of leverage. No, I want to see it. So I forward them the letter. Next thing I get a call, another clinic appointment. There was a vacancy, for the next one. Because basically what they do is those who don't make the cut, they wipe the list. So there's no waiting list. See? So you've made the cut, wipe the list, your doctor has to refer you again. So I get this, then get this letter from the DHB, sort of saying, oh, we have this policy of da-da-da, and this is why we do it, et cetera, which I knew that, And I'd written to them saying, is this now part of the furniture? Are we now expected, that's privatisation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, they came back with all those things, the priority system is fairest. I said, get all that. I'm just asking you, what is the DHB doing writing to a punter asking them to pay? Is that appropriate? And then meanwhile, it's gone to the copy to minister, And then I get a call saying, oh, no, there's a gap at the next one, which my doctor was going to try and get me onto. I go along there. Everything had changed. Everything had changed. There was a different surgeon there. Oh, you look terrible. Don't really? I don't think I'm that much different from last time. Oh, no, this is terrible and whatever. Go home. Next thing I get this letter, you have been selected.
A priority treatment,
and I thought, this really pisses me off because some other old codger who's there waiting to get a hip thing, he's going to get jumped over by me only because I've got some possible clout and they don't want to pick a fight, and these people don't. They don't have that leverage. And I thought, shit, what do I do here? And then I thought, God, I desperately want to get this thing done. I'm just saying, I went and got it done, and even better, it was done in a private hospital.
But it's shocking though that it's the case of the squeaky wheel getting the oil.
It's exactly that. But I tell you, after I had it done, I realised how much pain I had been in, because we do minimise. I just couldn't believe how great this thing was. And
you just learn to live with the discomfort, I guess.
Yeah.
And how's your mental health been? How's everything been on the inside?
Mental health, pretty good.
Yep.
Pretty good. This year, I tell you, I had a bit of a... This year I was thinking, because one of the things we always say, if you're worried about yourself or whatever, go and see someone. And this year, I tell him, because Wellington's just been so hard and sort of work drying up and just all one thing after another, blew up the engine. Here's a first world problem for you. Blew up the engine on my Aston Martin.
I heard about this somewhere in Pataranu, of all places.
In Pataranu. Blew the head gasket. Well, no, we thought we'd blown the head gasket. That one's a false alarm, and then it blew. It was just, anyway.
By the way, an old Aston Martin.
It was a DB7, the cheapest Aston Martin you could buy,
Because you're a car guy, eh?
Love cars.
What other cars have you got?
Well, I had a Bentley Corniche convertible, which old man Fletcher had brand new. It was the very first one made. There was only, I think, of this particular type, 21, I think, ever in the world. I love that car. Frank Sinatra had one. Liam Gallagher had one. Everyone had one. And but I sold that to some South African guy who was taken over there. But the car I've got that I'd never sell, because I've still got the book at home, 1963 Observer Book of Cars, because I came from a family of 6 boys, and we all had this book, we all had our favourite car. And mine was the 1963 Lincoln Continental 4-door convertible. It was the same car Kennedy was assassinated in, which was a stretched version. Suicide doors at the back. But at that time, it was the only 4-door convertible. And I wanted one of them ever since I was a kid. And just before I took over, started on Close-Up, I found one in Montana, in Whitefish, Montana, from a guy called Larry Funk. And it was his father-in-law's car. It had done 56,000 miles. It was the perfect year. It was the last year with the curved side windows, all this sort of thing. It ticked every box. I bought it practically sight unseen. And I would never sell it because it's a car. I still got the book, still got the car.
Incredible.
I should have kept the Bentley as an investment, probably, because the Bentley would have been a better thing to keep. But no, this was my car since I was 7 years old. You know.
Have you got a big garage at home? Or?
Well, we built a double garage at the back of our house after I'd got my redundancy, and I should have made it bigger. I mean, it's funny, you know. I just underestimated it. But I've got some storage out in Upper Hutt. I sort of keep it in during the winter. But I just like to use it all the time, even though it's a 7-litre V8 that does about 12 miles to the gallon. You know, you've just got to. You know, people say, what is it? Yeah, what's the mileage? I go, well, I've never actually checked, really, to be honest, because what's the point? You know, it's not going to be good. So you either want to drive it or you don't. You know?
Yeah, and you've got it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I've got friends that are collectors of different things, and they'll never take, say, the sneakers out of the box. And
I know.
What's the point?
I get it. Well, see, it's like toys, you know, because I love the things. I also collect Phantom comics, and I've been collecting that since I was a kid. I love the Phantom. Like the idea of the Phantom is always good. But toys, you look at anything, it's got to be in the box. You know, you think, oh, what's the point? It's the first thing you want to do when you get something is rip that open and sort of have a play with it. You know.
Yeah. Hey, when did the moustache become part of your identity?
It's funny. I grew a moustache. You know, I'm talking about in the 70s, and I shaved it off once. And my girlfriend at the time, well, she's now my wife, said grow it back. So I've had this unremoved since about 1978, probably.
Incredible. So the moustache is almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
The same style, same.
Yeah. It gradually got bigger, and but it was always the same style. I think it was called the General. I think original, whatever. But you know, and they went in, and it's funny because this has survived the vicissitudes of fashion as they came in and out. And, you know, you look like a 70s porn star 1 minute, you know, and then all that stuff, you know. But stuff it, you know. It was sort of, I always remember those words, grow it back.
So you'll never get rid of it? You'll die with it on?
Probably. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, the other thing is, it'd be a great way to disappear, wouldn't it? You know, after you've done the bank robbery, you just shave your moustache off, get a toupee, and no one's ever going to find you ever again.
But you must have had a lot of pressure over the years, like from Movember campaigners and things to...
that used to drive, you know, I dreaded Movember. Every year. Phone would ring. Hey, Mark, it's so-and-so here from some PR company, you know, or some radio station. We've got this great idea, you know, for Movember. I thought, let me guess. You know, and so I'd always say, look, I'm sorry, I'm contractually obliged not to shave it off because it's going to cause everything problems for all the publicity photos and everything like that. Which actually did happen once with Richard Long. He went off for the holidays, they'd done all the publicity photos for the next year, and he shaved his moustache off. They had to fly everyone back to do it again.
Yeah, so you mentioned your wife before being a fan of your moustache. So that's Ramona.
Yeah.
She still works as a lawyer?
Yeah. So she's got a practice out in Kilburnie. Ramona Rash at law. She does a lot of elder care. She's really good with... Because that's a huge growth. It's sort of, you know, enduring powers of attorneys and estates and that sort of stuff. But she's really good with people. That's her thing. That's the feedback. I mean, I get this from, you know, clients who say, oh, we love your wife. You know, she's so fantastic. But it's tough, you know, but just running a business, even, you know, in Wellington is tough.
Yeah.
You know, for everyone.
But that's a successful partnership, hey? How long have you guys been married?
We got married in 1984.
84... Oh, my maths is terrible. That's like 43 years?
Yeah, 42. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I mean, it's had its ups and downs.
I went
to the UK for 3 years.
Yeah.
As a Europe correspondent. Yeah. Well, she had a law practice. So
yeah, when your kids were quite young too, primary school age.
Yeah, as they remind me. Yeah, when you abandoned us, Dad.
We'll get into that later. Yeah, that's Arabella and Hunter, who are late 30s now?
Yeah.
So you and your wife, no plans to retire, slow down?
Well, can't afford to yet.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, look, you know, it's sort of, I like to keep working. I enjoy working. I like doing things, you know. And, you know, Ramona kept wanting me to do a podcast. I said, what, don't just look, you know, like those bloody wannabes like Dom, you know, that's just, no, high end. But, I mean, everything's changed, hasn't it? That whole media landscape has changed. You know, we used to rely before, oh, God, if you have not with a network or something like that. Nowadays, you know, if you've got the right mix and you've got the right juice, you'll do what you've done. Yeah, and you can make a huge success out of it.
There's no gatekeepers anymore.
No.
And the barrier to entry was always like the transmitters or the frequencies or whatever. Now, but go to Rock Shop, buy $1,500, or JB Hi-Fi, buy $1,500 worth of gear and you can get started.
I mean, I bought one of those Rode podcasters just for when you're doing some stuff for the Men's Health Week. But,
great piece of kit.
Yeah, so, but yeah. I had to get a young person in to sort of tune it up. Then realised I could look online. I didn't manage to master it, but some of that stuff, you feel just like, oh my God.
How are you with like tech?
Oh yeah, some stuff. Some. I'm not bad with some stuff. Tell you what drives me insane at the moment is they change all the settings on mail. So. Hang on, I've sent you an email. I can't find it because it's on primary, not on all mail, and it's just adjusted this stuff. Or they stack all the emails under each other and going, where's this thing?
Oh my God, I'm the same. I'm staring at my future self.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I feel like I'm getting left behind.
But you see, the thing is, AI is going to save us all, so it'll do it all for us, before the machines march in,
This is a great opening. This is going to be a great chat. I'm super excited about this. There's a lot to unpack. First of all, earliest memories. Who still calls you Greg? Does anyone call you Greg?
No. And I was never... See, my oldest brother, Bede, was Christopher Bede. Then John was Robert John. Paul actually was Paul Thomas, and I'm Gregory Mark, but always meant to be called Mark. I don't know what my parents were thinking, but they had this sort of weird idea about it.
So it's always been Mark then?
So it's always been Mark.
And where were you in the birth order?
Fourth.
How did you know whose toothbrush was who?
Yeah, I know. Well, we didn't like to brush our teeth, you just ignore that. I mean, because we grew up, you're probably too young for this, but the school dental nurse, Oh,
the murder house.
The murder house. There's still, I always remember the nuns at this Catholic primary school, and they'd write up you knew what this is the people who are going to have to go to the dentist that afternoon. And you'd be sitting there, please, don't make it me, don't make it me, don't make it me. Ooh! And you go down to the murder house. And it's just, when you think about it, and you look at all these things where they have, survivors of different, cruel treatments by the government can sue, since when did bringing in kids and drilling into their nerves without anaesthetic was considered a good idea,
It was so painful.
It was just so painful, and you just dreaded going, and, it was.
I think I got the. So you're born in '56. So I was born in '73. I think I got the tail end of it. But the dental nurse would come into a classroom. And you'd sit there dreading that it was your name.
Not me. I know.
It's wild.
And the only good thing I remember was you get these quite buxom ones would sort of press up on your neck, as they're sort of doing this thing. So there's a strange mix of youthful, not quite what's going on here thoughts and pain, So it's a surprise we didn't all become sort of sadomasochists.
So how many brothers did you share a bedroom with?
No, usually just two of us to a room.
Right. So you have 4-bedroom house.
No, we had a 3... Oh, well, hang on. Yes, we did. But it started off... they moved into the house in Heratonga when I was born, and then they had 2 more kids, and so they had to add an extension on out the back. Really funny. It was Bathurst Street, Heratonga, and I went past there the other day. I was going out to... for all things, a class reunion. That's a bit freaky. People you haven't seen in over 50 years. Went out to this thing, and I went out to the old house, and the house had been straightened up, pushed down to the back of the section, and 6 townhouses built on the front lawn.
Wow.
And it's sort of quite, that was my whole life. It's the only house I lived in, So...
How many bathrooms in the house? Was there?
One. No shower, only a bath.
Wow.
Bags first or second go at the bath.
Yeah, what was shared bath water? Did it go oldest to youngest or youngest to oldest?
Yeah, oldest.
Not that it mattered for you. You're in the middle.
Yeah, but it's it was Lord of the Flies, when it comes to the bath.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day because it was I'm one of 4, and I think it was I can't remember if it was oldest to youngest, oldest, but was it a money saving? Was water expensive, or was it a convenience thing?
Well, no, there was a limit to it because you had the old hot water heater, and eventually it's going to run out. So probably pour 1 bath, maybe 2 baths. You've done the cylinder, and there's nothing where you turn on the tap hoping it's cold. The hot water's coming out cold. You can't heat it up. Or Mum would boil a jug and bring in a chunk of hot water into the bath, And I remember going around to one of my best mates, Mike Keating, around to his house. And they had a shower. Wow! This thing had the old topless, with the big dial on it. Yeah. Oh, this was sophisticated. But, that was it.
What was the most trouble you got in? Were you a bad kid or a good kid? Neutral?
Yeah, look, we didn't get into much. I mean, the whole idea was just don't get caught, and same as sort of at school. The worst, I think, just trying to think of the worst trouble we got in at school. We were at St. Pat's, with the old mad caning Maris priests. And the weird thing was my uncle was Provincial of the Order at one stage, you know.
Wow.
But they are a very strange mob. I remember having a conversation with them once. I think it was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary we had at my place, and there was a couple of old priests there. Oh, it's terrible, this business that's going on with the church. This is where they're exposing all the paedophile priests. Back in our day, it was just dealt with, you know. Yeah, well, that's the problem. That's the problem, you know.
Dealt with it, send the priest
we
to a
had one
different
at our
area.
school who had been interfering, who was packed up and sent off to Pakistan. Oh, yeah, good one.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
So after school, you went to university, you studied law and dropped. When did you drop out?
Must have been my third year.
Really? Third year?
Yeah, at the start. And I'd got into student politics, you know, stood for the exec and all that sort of stuff. But then left and went driving buses. So I thought, try and get a bit of...
Yeah. Why did you quit? Why did you quit uni?
Oh,
were you bored?
Yeah,
You just decided it wasn't your thing?
yeah, no, I quite liked it. I can't think what... It was just like, I want to do something, or I was broke, or just decided to go and do something else, come back to it. So I went driving...
That would have been a bit... So you would have gone to the States and Mexico to drive buses and be a bar manager in the early 70s?
Yeah. Went to the States in 78.
Right, late 70s. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd been driving buses, and I was the bar manager at Barrett's Hotel for a while. That was an interesting time, because that was a big student pub, and you're the manager and say, trouble down in the public bar. Oh my God! But we had bouncers, you know. And the best time of all, I had a guy called Jeff Rackley, who was a New Zealand boxing champion, and they'd say, trouble in the bar upstairs. So you go walking up, he's behind you, and you were fearless. Because you knew, whatever happens, you'd just take one step to the left, one step back, and in comes Jeff, you know. So because you were fearless, people pick up on it. So you'd come in and say, right, you guys, out of here, you've had enough. And they'd know, he's not scared, he's not worried, there's nothing. It's amazing. They'd go. Jeff never ever had to actually do anything. There's mere presence there, and it affected how you present, and it's all about your body language and everything like that. That was half the thing. So that was sort of quite fun days, and then sort of... headed off on the bit of travel.
What did that role teach you about human behaviour?
It told us, I mean, one of the things is never judge people for a start. I mean, some of the people you come in and you think are going to be the worst or is going to be trouble, quite often it's not. And sometimes the people you least suspect, the quiet ones, can be the ones who are causing issues, you know. And just trying to be reasonable. Most people, if you're reasonable with them, you get a result, you know. Others, you take a step to the left and one step back, you know.
Yeah, so I had Sir Steve Hansen on the podcast last year, and we talked about his time as a police officer, and he said that the big lesson he got is to go into a confrontation at a 2 out of 10, because you can escalate up, but you can't escalate down. Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. The bus driving stunt, was it like Kontiki? Were you a mad shagger?
No, but no, this is at the Wellington with the big reds, and I got sacked in the end because I missed a Sunday shift or something like that, but whatever. I'd also crashed one of their buses. We also stole a bus one night after I left there. We went to a...
Because you knew where the key was at.
Well, there were no keys. This was the thing. There was a handle on the side. And we went to this Miss Wellington. This is terrible. Miss Wellington contest. This was years before I'd hooked up. And a friend of mine was in the Miss Wellington contest, and she said, would I escort one of the contestants there? Anyway... That became quite interesting. Anyway, we get there on the night, and myself and a mate, we just did a runner. I mean, because they all got so petty and all this sort of stuff, and for whatever reason, we shot through, and we're walking back, going back to Kelburn, and he said, you know how to get these buses going? Yeah. So we went in, get into it. We had on a white dinner jacket with a pink carnation, the whole thing, and we start driving back in this bus, and it's like 1 a.m, you know, driving through town, and we get to, and I'm thinking, shit, we're going to get we're going to get caught here, you know. Got up the terrace, and the paranoia was just getting too much at that stage. So, and you've got to stall them to stop them. So, put it in gear, put on the handbrake. Bus is going like this. We leap out, run up the cable car track, and sort of back to. And I remember lying in bed thinking, "Oh my God, when it runs out of diesel, the compression in the brake cylinder is going to go, and this thing is going to start, careering down the terrace, wiping out some family on their way to church, And I just thought, how you get this, and never heard a thing about it. And I had a mate who drove taxis, and he said, they were talking about it on the radio. Of course, they didn't want any publicity, because they didn't want people to know how easy it was, But, God, we were close.
When you look back at that young version of yourself, what do you admire about him, and what makes you cringe?
Oh, jeepers. There are all sorts of things that make you cringe. I guess the things that make you cringe the most is things where you might have been cruel or unkind to someone. You think back and, I didn't need to do or say that. You're just too smart, or you hurt someone's feelings. Here's the thing, we went to the school reunion, the class of 1970 from St. Pat's Silver Street. And there was about 70 odd of us. And some of them you hadn't seen in over 50 years, had no idea. The guys who organised it had this genius idea. You wore a lanyard with your third form picture on it and your name underneath, Anyway, and all these emails are going backwards and forwards, and there was one from a guy I knew who I used to hang out with when we were at primary school, and then the first couple of years at Silverstream, called Rupert Leeming. He had been his father was a doctor, and they moved to the States. Anyway, and he said, sorry, I can't be there, and hooked in or something or other. And then lobs in with, and Mark Sainsbury, I'll never forgive you for telling me that my teeth were going to rot one day, and I've been paranoid about them ever since, and so, oh my God, talk about not dealing with issues. And so I put in a reply saying, well, you've got me to thank for you having great teeth now then, haven't you, And, but it's funny how things, you can just hang on to things, or whether it was, but it was just, obviously, it was still in his memory. Yeah. And how those things can sort of hang there,
They can define someone's life in a way.
Yeah. I always remember sitting there next to a guy called Ross Patterson, who was a lovely guy, Ross, but he had very fine white hair and was always immaculate. And this priest wandered up and stood next to him reading something from a book and started playing with his hair. And I'm going, that's normal, yeah, sure thing, He was the same priest who was supposed to take us for sex education, and he came and he wrote on the blackboard, penis, vagina. Now, a man has and a woman has so he would never actually say the words. And we're all going, where's this going, Dear. And his name was Father Head.
Oh my God! Wow. So after the bus driving stint and the bar stuff, you return to New Zealand and you go back to studying journalism.
Well, I was going to go back to uni, so that was the idea. Go back, finish off the degree. And I didn't want to be a poor student. It always amazed me how better you lived when you were poor than when you were actually earning money. When you were a student, we used to go skiing, we used to out to the pubs, we'd be doing things. I mean, mind you, you'd be working part-time and stuff, but that balance seemed to be much better. Then you sort of, once you start taking on responsibilities and things, you don't seem to have that same latitude. So I was thinking, I want to do something. I had this vague idea I could go and work for NZPA at night and sort of fund my, university stuff.
What's NZPA?
New Zealand Press Association.
Oh, right.
And they were like AP or whatever. They were the Journal of Record. They would cover everything, and they were a subscription service. All the papers got it from them. So if they didn't get to a select committee, NZPA would have been there. If they didn't get to this, NZPA would have done it. So it was that sort of thing. But like Reuters, or same sort of thing. So anyway, that was the idea. So I went and applied, myself and this mate Mike Keating, when he came with us, we both applied. But it was like there was about 400 people applying for this course. Might have been more. I got in, he didn't. And then before the end of the course, I applied for this job out at Avalon as a researcher. And I turned up out there, and there's one of those sort of panel, things, 4 people sitting there, And anyway, they go through it, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, I haven't got much of a chance here. Then they say, okay, if you were working here, what's a story you'd pitch up for us today? And we'd just done this thing, as part of the course, we ran the local paper, and we'd just done this sort of big feature. And don't forget, this is 1980, and unemployment is huge. And people were seriously talking about there will never be full employment again. We'll be down to, Britain was doing the 3-day week, and it's going to be, we've got to get used to the fact there won't be full-time employment. So our pitch on this thing we did was, do we need to start training ourselves for leisure? We're going to have to start training, not just for work, but for how we're dealing with our leisure time. So I said, that this will be my idea. And they all started looking at each other. I thought, that'll be a dud. And they said, we've just commissioned that exact story this morning.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would
Oh,
never...
nailed it.
Yeah, I would never have got that job if I'd applied for it the next year or the year after. There were PhD people and whatever. But it was, once you were in, that was it. And TVNZ was a fantastic place because you could jump from department to department and do different things, and you learned of all these amazing people. I had a brilliant time there, you know.
What did the TVNZ newsroom look like 45 years ago, 46 years ago?
Well,
Smoking?
Yeah, smoking. In fact, we had the old film cans. And when I first started there in the news, we were still using a single system film. So 16mm film, which had a mag stripe on the side. So that recorded the sound and the film went onto the... Wow. But you imagine as it goes through a projector, there's a gap between the image that's being captured by the lens and the sound that's being captured by the sound thing. The sound thing's down here. So when they're aligned, you'll get it in sync. But this much has to go through the gate before your first picture. So that's why you get a lot of people doing what they call gold fishing. Anyway, it was pretty crude. It was pretty crude, but it was fantastic. But there was ashtrays. Smoking was compulsory. There was a guy, Bill Knight, there, who hated smoking. He got told where he could go. In fact, I did a story on the last day of smoking in the office.
When was that? Can you remember the year?
Oh, it would have been 1990. No, hang on. I was working on Holmes. So was it when I came back from... Yeah, it must have been, I think it was late 90s.
Right. Wow, that's crazy.
Early 2000s, yeah, it was when Helen Clark was Health Minister. So it must have been after 1999. But yeah, it was... and those days we could just have fun. You know, we could just do what we liked. So we went out and, you know, we went to some restaurant and we made out that I was from... the business round table, trying to sort of, now vouchers for children, let's adopt out the babies from those solo mums and sell them to rich people and all this sort of stuff. And we're ordering all this food at this restaurant. Now, who's having the salmon, you know? And it was just craziness. And we did this thing, and the next day, and we just took the piss out of it. And I had myself and my cousin, Bernie Atkins, who's gone, I'm afraid, but we were doing this thing where we were throwing out bread, you know, and then they did the cutaway, the reverse, and there were these pensioners grabbing it as we were throwing it. You know, this is just... The next day, I was having a coffee outside Bowen Street, and the Salvation Army guy walks past and goes, "Thank you so much for what you did last night." Because it was all that sort of, everyone was just so obsessed with the, you know, it was all sort of the free market and everything.
Was this pre-87?
Yeah.
Yeah, the crash of 87. When did you stop smoking? Were you a big smoker?
Yeah, not a big smoker, but a committed smoker. I mean, I never used to smoke before midday. But, you know...
You have your boundaries.
But, yeah, had my boundaries. But, you know, but I was never one of those, you know, free to reach out for one first thing in the morning. Oh, but get on the piss. I mean, that was the other thing. I remember we'd be at Brasserie Flip, and we'd be sending the waiter or the waitress off down the road to get more fags, you know. You know, that's after half of them had a joint down in the car park before it even started, you know.
Was it hard quitting? I've never smoked myself, but...
Well, the terrible thing was, it wasn't. I mean, you could sort of... You always tell yourself you can do it. But it's... and then vaping, you replace it with a... You know, I still vape a bit now. And that's almost worse because it's too easy and you can do it anywhere, and you didn't have the, you know, before you had to go outside and there was punctuation, you know, and especially when Bill Ralston was here, everyone was around at the smoking area. But, you know, you go out, you'd have a fag, you'd put it out and you go inside. Nowadays, people go out, sit there, and they can just sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there and, it, you know, that sort of thing. But it is one of the best things you can do. I mean, it still amazes me that people who, you know, are really intelligent and smart still don't, you know, why do you smoke? You know it's bad for you. You know it's likely to cause cancer, you know, but you still do it.
Yeah, I suppose it's the same as alcohol as well. It's like alcohol causes a lot of cancers, but, you know, we still do it.
Yeah, but what it gets me is you'll get some report that says... yeah, it's one glass of wine a day is good for you. You know, another one says, yeah. And I've always wanted to do this thing where you got all these things and you did a lot. So I'm going to take one glass of wine for this, I'm going to do this for this, and I'm supposed to take this for this. All these things are told to do. It's like that guy did that Living Like Oprah. You know, he tried to see if he could actually follow her advice on every single thing. And because it's just absolutely nuts, you know.
So, really early on in your career at TVNZ was the Springbok Tour in 1981. Yeah. You sort of broke the story?
Well, this was really weird. So I started out, TVNZ. I started there in 1981, and our research, and they wanted to do this thing behind the barricades with the box. So we wanted, when the team came in, we could sort of get alongside them, as we used to say, and see it from their perspective. So I'm ringing this guy, and these are the days you had to, yes, hello operator, I'd like to make a person-to-person transfer charge call to, Stellenbosch, South Africa. And you'd ring this guy, Professor Claassen, who was the manager of the team. So I'm there going, look, we'd like to do this, and we'd like to do this, and chat. And meanwhile, the whole debate over the tour was going on. Then they finally had that, and he'd go, yes, well, we know it's just the agitators and the communists who don't want us to come, all this sort of stuff. And I thought, do you have any idea what's going on over here? Anyway, Muldoon at once had said to the rugby union, okay, you go back, have one last think about it. Whatever you decide to do, we will support you. We'll support the rule of law. Anyway, it was like a revolving door. The old rugby board goes into the room, straight out again. We've had the vote. It's going ahead. So I ring this guy once again, person to person. You chat to all the operators along the way, and get hold of this guy. And I said, oh, you would have heard the news. Yeah, what news is that? I said, well, I've confirmed the tour. Oh, that's... And I'm thinking, how weird is this? There's some researcher from a TV show in New Zealand is telling the manager of the South African team that the tour's on. In the end, so anyway, he did come over, and we were trying to get some stuff going, but there was a 60 Minutes crew over at the same time, a guy called George Negus, who was quite a sort of famous reporter in his day. And they were just a slick act, the old 60 Minutes, They flew everywhere, business class too, and all this stuff. And they had a full cruise, and we were helping them, and I'd given them the briefing and stuff, and I watched what they did. They were just absolutely brilliant. I saw this guy during one of the protests. The police guy's got this guy in a headlock. And George was down there with the mic. What's this man being arrested for, officer? And the other one, which was the greatest line I've ever seen, because of their pull, they got an interview with Errol Tobias. Errol Tobias was a Cape coloured. He was the first non-white player ready to play for the All Blacks, sort of come out to New Zealand. And they were trumpeting this as the great breakthrough in sort of race relations in South Africa. So he got this interview with them, and so you see it in their piece. It was like a tight frame of this guy. And he says, at one point, George Negus says, Errol, there's a sign outside of the protest that says, Errol Tobias, Uncle Tom. What do you think that means? Oh, no, stop that. And then you suddenly hear this voice. Stop that. And then the cameraman just pulls out to a wide shot. Behind the stand in Gisborne, as everyone else is getting on the bus, I've got this quick interview, and standing with him, I think it was Bob Stewart, one of the rugby union guys. No, you can't be asking that. You cannot. We're going to stop this right now. And George Negus turns around to him and says, this man's a human being. Wow. It was just... Anyway, but they scooped them off and put them on the bus. I just loved the way they operated. They'd turn anything into... But that was a real eye-opener, that, because we went to the press conference. And at the press conference, the deal was rugby writers get first crack. Well, you don't look that strong in the three quarters, and all this sort of stuff, and blah, 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 backwards and forwards, and then stopped. And then it was like, then the tsunami started. When you went to South Africa... There was to Australia last year, there were 3 people died. You're expecting blood on your hands. This thing, everyone just climbed in. George Negus, there was a guy called Abe Williams, who was an assistant manager, who was a Cape coloured, and he said to Abe Williams, Mr. Williams, while you're in New Zealand, you can travel on the same bus, eat in the same restaurant, stay in the same hotel as the rest of your team, but you can't do that at home in South Africa. Many things have changed in South Africa. We're moving on. Well, unless the Group Areas Act 1944 has been repealed overnight, I suggest that's not true. And they just ripped into them. I thought, this is that. Because it was international media. Everyone was there, And, there was a stain on us, I think, that tour.
What was your stance at the time?
I was anti, but you had to remain neutral. And we were told if we got involved in any protesting, we'd be sacked. So, when they had to... So, went to Gisborne... Came back, and when they had the test down at Wellington, myself, my mate Mike Keating and Ramona, we thought, bugger it, we're going to go down. So we get our helmets on. So we get along, there's this big march being formed. Get along in the middle, get in there. Yeah, this is perfect, good. And we're sitting there, and then this guy comes down, stops just past me. Here, line behind us. Everyone turn round. So everyone turns round here, and they march off. We're now at the back. Oh, that's all right. Then, okay, everyone turn round. We're now at the front of the scene. And I'm just thinking, I do not want to be here. Anyway, we marched up and down. I think we were just a decoy thing. But I wanted to make, but if you've been seen or whatever, in theory, we would have been sacked. But it's always a thing. In journalism, you always had your own personal view on things. The job is being able to keep that separate from what you do professionally.
Yeah.
I used to argue with Duncan Garner and Guy and Espiner about this. They wouldn't vote. They say, well, no, we're not going to vote in the election that way. No one can accuse us of being biased. Well, you still could be biased. I mean, you still have your opinions. Not voting doesn't change it. Doesn't mean you still don't think those things. You should vote. Everyone should vote, in my view. But it's you've got to be able to separate that out from what you do professionally.
Those two names you just mentioned, I've had both those guys on the podcast.
Before me?
Yeah, Duncan.
Thanks. I know where I stand now, Don.
Duncan and Guy on. And I've just recently had Barry Soper on.
Barry.
So you left...
I worked for Barry.
Yeah, you left TVNZ in the late 80s to work with IRN, Independent Radio.
Yeah, no one did that. No one left TV. There was that hierarchy. That TV was... that everyone wanted to be on TV, no matter what they said. TV was because you always got preference with everything. Chasing talent, whatever. TV, it was a big. Mind you, when people didn't want to talk, TV was the last place they were going to go. There was that.
TV was a bigger audience. It was more glamorous.
Yeah, it was. It was the glamour with it.
Why did you leave TV to go to radio?
Because I just sort of got bored. I was doing stuff and I thought I was doing it reasonably well. I just wanted a challenge. Wouldn't mind being over at Parliament, and it seemed a good idea. And no one went from TV to radio. So I went over. So I stayed with Barry for a year. Love Barry.
You only stayed with him like you were flatting together.
No. Stayed at
IRN.
I love Barry, great guy, but he was a prick to work for.
Was this in his bow tie era?
Yes, in the bow tie era. And he had all these scams going. He'd met someone in South America who was trying to import silk ties. No, it's just insane. Just insane.
God, he's like you though. He's great company.
Oh yeah, no.
Great raconteur.
Yeah. And look, and a lot of those rough edges have been sort of reared off. And Heather I love the way Heather just deals to him. Come on, there's no fear or favour given there. Yeah.
So you were there for a year, Independent Radio News.
Yeah.
And then
back to TV.
Back to TVNZ. And is this when the Holmes show started? Like in 89?
Yeah, 89. The Holmes show started.
Were you there from the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh fuck! Where were you when the infamous opening episode?
I was in Wellington. And the phones just went nuts and all this sort of stuff. And it was all that, how could he be so rude to an overseas visitor? What? Yeah. It was an interesting thing there because when it started, it really was, you got a lot of calls from people, I've got nowhere else to go. And I remember this woman rang me up one day and she said, look, I'm desperate. I've got nowhere else to go. I don't know if you can help me. But I've got a son who's had glue ear. It's just been terrible. And the terrible thing is, we're getting to the stage we can't afford the medicines anymore. We don't buy lotto tickets or do anything like that, But the worst thing is, and the smell, I can't even hug my kid. The smell is so bad. And she said, we finally, we got into, get it done, and they went into hospital and they thought, this is going to be great. And after the procedure, the nurse came out and said, look, put these drops into his left ear every 3 days. Left ear? It's his right ear that's the one that's infected. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to put you back on the end of the waiting list again. So not only had they cocked it up, did the wrong ear, back at the end of the queue. I rang someone, as you do, I knew who'd been at Parliament, who was the comms for, Wellington District Health Board or whatever it was in those days. And I could just hear this guy, oh my God, just, here was this disaster. Excuse me. Then about 10 minutes, maybe half an hour later, phone rings, it's this woman again. Oh, I can't believe what you've done. They've booked him in for tomorrow, And we could have, I thought, well, we could go and pretend we haven't had that conversation and build it up and do the whole thing. But I just thought, great, we've achieved something. She's got that thing that she wanted, and we're not going to have to put her through the public thing. And they would have probably kicked my ass if they knew I could have done something. But that was the power of it back in those days. And it was fantastic, It was just, it used to become fair go. Which everyone, I still people, hey, fair go. I've never worked for fair go, for fair go in my life.
Oh, they're just getting you confused with Kevin Milne or just
whatever.
Like being a watchdog on TV.
Other white bald guys with beards and moustaches,
Did you ever get a bollocking from Paul?
Only when he thought I used to go out with his girlfriend at one stage. He was funny, Paul. He was. He was. Look, he was a genius. He was an absolute genius. Fatally flawed. I remember once we'd been staying at a hotel in Wellington, down for a job. We're in this cafe across from the Continental, and it was when the smoking ban had come in, and he just lit up a cigarette in the middle of the restaurant. And we're saying, Paul, you can't smoke here. No. And the guy's running over with an ashtray, come on. But, I'm just going to do it. I mean, the thing was crowded. And that was the thing. It was like, and people sort of quite like that. You can do, you're so famous and whatever, you can do whatever you like. It's like Trump. I could shoot someone in Madison Avenue and no one's going to do a thing.
Just zero fucks given.
Yeah.
What do you think, as someone that had a front row seat, his greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses were?
His empathy, and he could relate to anyone. He could relate to anyone. That was his big thing. Empathy and relatability,
Did he give you any advice that stuck with you?
It was funny. I remember our mutual friend Mariana Hearn, one of the greatest producers in TV, said to me, Paul was always really upset that I never rang him for advice when I ended up in that slot. But it was a weird sort of thing. I could have done, I suppose, but you're trying to make your own way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he's he just had the touch, and people warmed to him. And he knew the right thing to do. One of my favourite things I ever did was, a producer in Wellington one day, Bernie Griffin, says, Acker Bilk and Kenny Ball are coming to town. Oh, yeah. But Geoffrey Palmer, who was the Prime Minister at the time, plays the trumpet, we could get a jam session going. Anyway, he persisted. Next thing, the producer rings me from Auckland. Yeah, this is a great idea. We're going to do it. Paul's coming down. You need to produce and direct it, So we hired a limo, go out to, some tatty stretched Falcon or something. And we go out to the airport and we pick them up and we take them to Parliament. We had arranged to meet Geoffrey. I still can't believe we got this thing done. And there was a tour party of schoolgirls. We got them to mob the car as these guys arrived. Acker Bilk and Kenny Ball don't know what's hitting them. And as they get out of the car, there's this... And they look up and they're on the balcony of the Beehive. It's Geoffrey Palmer with the trumpet. And we queued them all up. We've got a camera up there. Stay there, I'll come down and get you. So anyway, we go through this thing. They get up there and they start this jam session. And in the middle of it, the phone rings, and Geoffrey goes, that was Bob Hawke trying to get hold of me. And Paul says, I hope you told him to ring back. I did, actually. And on we went, and then we got this thing, I think it was one of the greatest cinematic shots I've ever done. We got them to do a conga line around the outside of the Beehive windows, and they're all black and in silhouette. And there's Geoffrey Palmer, you recognise straight away with the East Island head, you recognise Ackerbill. And then there's this demented Paul Holmes dancing along behind it. He could pick up, he knew how to pick up on things straight away, But Palmer's office, who wanted to do this because they wanted to dispel the myth of boring Geoffrey and no fun Geoffrey. Totally wrong thing they did, because what it did, it just made him look like everyone else. They liked the fact he was boring, didn't do anything, he was Mr. Reliable, and after Longy, that's exactly what everyone wanted. And now they blame me for his downfall.
So, 1991, when you were still on the Holmes show, is that when you connected with Sir Edmund Hillary?
Yeah. It was a funny thing. Tom Scott is a good mate of mine.
The cartoonist.
Cartoonist, writer, playwright, book writer. He said to me, he had met Ed going over to Australia for something, I'd been America's Cup or something or other. Said, he had a great chat with him, and as he always used to say, he was on the plane with Ed. Ed had just strapped himself to the wing and sort of flew over that way, sitting out in the elements. So he said, look, I'm going to go over to research this film or documentary I want to make in Nepal. Ed goes over every year and just with his suitcase dispensing the rupees to all his projects, literally. You should come too, So I pitched this up the TV and said, look, he's getting on now. He's in his 70s. He's done these amazing things. We should go over and do this thing. And anyway, he could drop any minute, Hey, okay, yeah, they agreed to it. And so we went over. Most extraordinary trip of my life. I just on every single level, it was just extraordinary. Kathmandu, we got in there. It was just like something out of the Tintin comics, It was just insane. And we were staying in this hotel called the Shangri-La. And I was convinced that, this is just slavery conditions. That doorman I've never come into the hotel or left the hotel without seeing him there. He must work 24 hours a day. It took us about 3 years of travelling there before I realised he was a twin.
Oh.
They had 2 of them. So we got over there. We got over to Ed, and he had this party of people with him. All right, and they were all big donors. So what used to happen? He'd come over. You'd get up into Lukla, which is that airport, don't you see, which is carved into it's like a cliff face almost, and that would start your way as you work your way towards Everest. And he would go over there every year, and he'd take this big suitcase and he'd go to the different schools, and here's the money you need for this, and here's the money you need for that, and da 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 da. So we all had to sort of, we had the King's helicopter to fly us in, and that got delayed because of weather. So in the meantime, we filmed the yogi or the fakir, doing the things, and I'll never forget the immortal words of the interpreter who's trying to work out what he's saying as he's gesturing and pointing this big pile of rocks. He say, yes. He say he can lift. Yes, he can lift. He say he can lift with his what? His penis? Oh, yeah, we wouldn't mind having a look at that, and think, what is going to happen here? Like, is he going to wedge it underneath or something? I mean, what is going on? For the record, he tied his little loincloth round it, made a loop, and he squatted down, grabbed the head, then stood up, and you could hear this thing creak as these rocks are going backwards and forwards. I sent it back on the satellite to New Zealand when with all the stuff of Ed nearly dying, but Paul Cutler wasn't wearing it. They weren't going to run it, and they had this late night show. But that was just the start. So this is just the beginning for this trip, and then you get up and it's just so amazing. And the people, the Sherpa people, because the Sherpas are a particular group of people as opposed to there's the porter. Porter is the job, you carry the gear up, and sometimes Sherpas are porters, but they are different. They're usually the guides, the climbing guides, and it was just, that whole thing was just one of those magical trips. But these mad people who came with it, there was Zeke, who was ran the US operation, who was a Canadian but a former gridiron player. There was a woman who'd married successfully about 6 times and was incredibly rich, and she was a big sponsor. There was a guy whose father had invented extruded aluminium furniture and Tampax, Ted, and Ted ran the extruded aluminium furniture side of things, but he was a bit out there on the spectrum, would say these days. And then there was another guy who was an independent wealth manager whose main clients were the Salter Guitar and Ted. Wow. So wherever Ted went, his wealth manager wasn't far behind. There was another guy who was an expert on Ayn Rand, and he kept trying us, you need to film me and put me on TV here and warn about the perils of communism, because they're about to have their first elections in 40 years. It was just insane, this whole thing that was going down there. And then there's a guy called Alex Tilley. Alex Tilley had been a clerk in a insurance company in Canada, and he invented this thing called the Tilley hat, which is a bit like the swan dry hair. Became a Canadian, anyone went fishing had a Tilley hat. Made him filthy rich. Sponsored, put a lot of money into the Himalayan Foundation, Ed Hillary's one. And so he was over on this trip, so this was the payoff. He had a whistle that could be heard 16 kilometres away. He had a pack that converted into a deck chair. He had a sleeping bag that became both a survival suit and a raft. He had all these bloody things, and a 17-year-old daughter who was on the trip that was just insane. We're in the thing at night, and she starts talking about losing her virginity, and I'm just going, well, your father's here, and B, we don't really want to be hearing all this nonsense as well. This thing was it was insane. And I was going to do a whole separate piece. I was going to get Tom to do like a verbal pen portrait of them all, because it was just like this ship of fools, And then Ed got altitude sickness. The guy, literally, you can see, just about see Everest, and he's getting altitude sickness.
Just the irony.
And gibberish. So they sent the Canadians all off to continue where they were going to be going and looking at the various sites. And we just thought he was going to be okay. And that's when, that night, there was a clinic and doctors in this little village, which he had set up. And that's why they tested his they put these things in your finger. They tell how much how much oxygen you're absorbing, and they said it's basically him standing on Everest. That's how much air he's getting, or oxygen he's getting. And they had cylinders and oxygen cylinders, but the respirators that bits didn't fit the tank things. It was like these were French and these were American. We went out to the shed, and they had all these different step-down things for doing the plumbing. And so I made this sort of tree which could sort of connect it up. And we're in this room, and Ed's lying there sort of, semi-conscious and oxygen mask on, and it's running out. His Sirdar, the guy who organised all his expeditions, whose village we were at, he'd marched off into the night to the Japanese hotel up the valley, where they pumped oxygen into the room so the clients didn't pass out when they landed in on a plane. And so he disappeared. This is going on, and we were just really worried. And I'm also thinking, I've got a camera and a crew in the next room. This is probably the biggest story you're ever going to come across. What do you do? Well, we're now embroiled in this. We're helping. So I'm not going to get the camera out to try and let's get some shots of Ed dying, Cross your mind. Well, of course, you thought it through. So anyway, so we're sitting there, and he's lying there, and this is going on. And at one stage, though, he goes, I want to piss. What? I want to piss. I want to piss. Which is a good sign. Because if you're actually urinating, it means your system is working. Okay, so we sort of sit him up, and we're sort of looking around. What is that? There on the shelf, I kid you not, is an empty Edmund's Shorter Rise baking powder tin. And I said to Tom Scott, I'm holding the tin. And so we had to get him up, fish it out, get it done, And then I said, now I reckon we start taking the blackmail pictures now, Tom. and Ed started laughing. And again we thought, he's going to come right.
That's a good sign.
That's a really, really, really good sign. So we got through that night, and we came out the next day. It was the weather had been clagged in. We couldn't get him out. And finally there was a break in the weather. The King sent his helicopter in. The King, who then got wiped out by his son in a palace massacre. He sent the helicopter in, but we're taking Ed, and we're still all this footage is still there. Tom and I, one on side, me on the other, helping Ed. And this old dude, from the village, when the village elders came out, he looked about 100, and he came out and he grabbed Ed's hand, and suddenly he was just like Ed was lighter than air. It was just like, didn't need us, he just walked along. It was just one of the most incredible things I've seen. Anyway, we got him onto the helicopter, got him out, back to Kathmandu. Within about 12 hours, he was just back to normal.
Came right. Was that the beginning of? It seemed like an odd friendship.
It was. It was, and so we did several more trips after that and back. And they used to catch up with them, and they always used to ring. Oh, I've had a call from someone wanting to do. Yeah. Well, I'll look after it, Ed. And the cameraman, Alan, who's just a lovely, lovely, lovely man. He would get calls all the time. He'd go down there and film stuff for them because his phone number was in the phone book, of course. Yeah, this is the great thing. You get these calls from CNN and, look, we want to get hold of our Sir Edmund Hillary. I say, well, you do know you can.
It's underage.
Oh, look, I can look after this difficult task for you. Yeah, so whenever we were in Auckland, we always used to go around and see him and do things and hang out. So we became friends. And he was just a lovely guy. He's a fantastic
What sort of things did you talk about?
Anything.
Right.
Anything. I mean, you talk about current stuff. We often would have questions, and things would come up and say, hey, what about this guy, Ed? What do you reckon? I remember one day when we were in Nepal, and again up in the Sainso, and this guy called Mark Bashir called in, and he was going to climb Everest. People then tried, because you can't, it's been climbed. Ed did it, or Ed intends did it. But, so they're going to climb without oxygen, or they're going to climb in one day, or they're going to climb da-da-da. Or next thing, I'm going to walk backwards up the mountain, the first, all this stuff. But this guy was going to be the first guy to do Everest and Lhotse. So if you look at Everest, you see it's like that, and then there's another mountain next to it. To do both peaks in one day. So to do that, he got to the top just before midnight, and then as soon as it was midnight, climb in the dark, great, get over, and that's what he's going to be doing. So they were doing all this sort of, and he would carry nothing. He'd be literally just about being short, but he'd have some chocolate bars and stuff like that. And and through him met lots of interesting people. Beck Weathers, the guy who was left for dead on Everest.
Wow.
and survived. Extraordinary story. You should read his thing. But yeah. Oh, it was funny. I mean, like, little bit, because you think all of this is the thing I always admired about Ed. All of this is he must have. I could just about do. There's only a couple more strokes of the old ice excellence on that. So, yeah, but you'd heard the story, been to so many functions. He'd always be asked, "What was it like?" As if he had never thought about it before. But then he'd come out with gems. I remember he told me he had a piss on the top of the mountain. That was one of the things he did. But no, because his job, everyone had jobs in the climbing party. His was to be able to melt the ice to be able to drink it. He had to melt. That was his job. So he'd melt all these ice to get so much water. And again, it comes back to that hydration. If you could have a piss on the top, it meant you were hydrating, and that was a really, really good sign. But he never just about got dumped from it, because originally, before they changed it. They changed the lead of the expedition. A guy called Shipton was going to be doing it, Eric Shipton, and he did the exploratory thing. That's how Ed met him. He was over there with some New Zealand climbers doing just other mountains. And they don't know how, they got a telegram from Shipton saying, "Hey, look, 2 of you can come and join us for this recce we're doing." And then they were so impressed by Ed that he was going to be on the team. But the organisers, the Royal Geographical Society, didn't think, Shipton wanted a small team, wanted something bigger. So John Hunt was brought in, ex-army, and he got, no, if you're going to be on this trip, you must be here for the whole preparation. So Ed, you're off the bus. And these 2 guys who were on it, who were doing the experimental oxygen equipment, and said, "We've been there. We know what's involved. It's ice climbing. None of us have we don't have any experience in ice climbing. The Kiwis do. If he's not coming, we're not coming." And Hunt had to change his mind. I was never aware of that. And I took Ed and Hunt. We hired a chopper and went up to Teng Boshe, which is this Buddhist monastery on the path to Everest, most significant Buddhist monastery in Nepal. And that was then together. It was probably would have been the last time that ever the 2 of them being able to see Everest and look back on it. So
that's incredible.
It was extraordinary. I mean, the whole thing was extraordinary. The Times reporter James Morris, who was there, was sponsored by the Times. And they had the exclusive, but when they got the story back to London, the next morning was the coronation. They gave it to all the media. So all the papers came out, coronation gift, But James Morris, extraordinary. I mean, I wanted him to, for this doco I did on Ed, but there was just one slight sort of continuity thing you had to deal with. James Morris in the 70s went off to Casablanca and had a sex change, and became Jan Morris, who was a celebrated travel essayist and historian, read Pax Britannicus and various books on Madrid and Seville and various other things. Yeah, but you've got all this footage. Yeah, but they shot film up there for the whole thing and put a film out. Here's the intrepid reporter from the Times, and he's wandering along literally in the safari suit and the big body panel, the big pith helmet. And then you've got to go, and now we've got this sweet little old lady with pearls and a perm living in Oxford and had to try and find a way of just getting from one to the other because she was such great talent.
So I never had the privilege of meeting Sir Edmund Hillary, but he seemed to have this sort of mana about him. Did he have that sort of mana about him, or once you got to know him on a personal level or helped him piss into a tin, did the mana sort of...
Well, he still, look, he was a big unit. He had a commanding sort of presence, And the thing, and he was literally, until you got to know him, he was a man of few words, He was what we all would want to be. We all want to be Ed Hillary, wouldn't we? Just do it by action, no bloody small talk, just get out there and do it, No fuss, no bother. And that's what he was like. But he was a very thoughtful guy. He had a great sense of humour as well, And he was sort of good company. And that was part of the thing why it worked so well. Because it was the same with Tom. Tom became very, very good friends. We would give him shit. Because there's that tennis even fawns over them. And we'd go, God, Ed, you've climbed this once and you've made a bloody fortune out of it. This guy over here has done it 12 times. You're a fraud, and he'd love it. He'd really like that. Because no one used to, and it was just absolutely crazy.
Mm. Have you met anyone else with the same sort of mana or presence? You met heaps of cool people.
Yeah, no, he was certainly one. Oh, look, I tell you, you meet someone like Willie Appiata and something, they've got something to them again, but it's just that quiet, they can see unproposing, but you think,
like just a stoicism, eh? Just gets on with it.
Yeah, all those SAS guys, you look at them and think, I could take you. Yeah. Actually, no, I couldn't, even if you had your arms tied behind your back.
So, he passed away in 2008, and you became like the family spokesperson for
I was driving up in my Lincoln Continental four-door convertible with the roof down, with a mate with me who's in a wheelchair, and we're coming up and we're going to go and have dinner with Ed that night and catch up.
Because he was unwell?
Well, he had been. I'd seen him a few weeks earlier and he was in bed and he wasn't great. And Hunter, my son, and Ramona and I'd called in and saw him. And he was still very chatty, but he was obviously getting, it was getting there. So anyway, so we were driving up and then I get this phone call finally that I've been out of contact. Oh, we're desperate. Where are you? We need you up here. Ed's died, da-da-da. Can you ring? So I rang the family, but then they said, we'll send a chopper, pick you up. And I said, what about the car? No, we'll do. I said, well, look, I've got someone else in the wheel. I'll just keep driving. It's going to be easier. And I had a sort of a Newtown T-shirt on and a hat and my sunnies and shorts, and I pull up in this car to Ed's place and then expected to read the family statement as I'm sitting there. Anyway, look, if it makes it easier for them. So I basically had to take care of that, but then did the funeral. Simon Dallow and I did did the commentary on it.
What an honour.
Yeah, it was an honour. It was good. And also it's because half the thing was I could recognise a lot of the people coming in. There's this whole different subset of people, He had people like Murray Jones, who's also passed away, who wore shorts 24/7, 365 days of the year. Lived down some of those hardy, nuggety guys,
Do you remember your last conversation with Sir Ed?
Well, that was when I had stopped in to see him. So we had quite a long chat, and Hunter was there as well and talking about different things. And and he was in good... Yeah, it was funny because I can remember him coming to our school as a kid. He was this guy, that he had such a... he had such a sort of a reputation, but then just suddenly, and so I really hadn't had anything, and we went round and met them before we went, and we'd all seemed to get, and that was the thing, if you got on, and you had to pass June's gaze as well, June Hillary, his wife, his second wife, if you get, and June, a lot of people pillory June for control, no, June was like the gatekeeper, she had his interests, because Ed would sort of get caught up and be somewhere and supposed to be going to something, I'm tired, no June, no Ed, they would have been waiting all day, they know you need to just even stop in. So she was great, and she protected him in a lot of ways.
Didn't he lose his first wife and daughter in a plane crash?
Oh, that was that airport I'm telling you about, they were sort of building that, which is built into the side of a cliff. And his wife and daughter, it was the apple of his eye, was supposed to fly in and join them. And the plane, they had like pins you put in the flaps to stop them when it's parked up, moved up, and they have ribbons. And someone had pinched the ribbons. Pilot still should have checked, but he got into the plane, took off, no flaps, came down, it happened to hit the ground, explosion all over. And Ed said to me, he was sitting there doing this thing and he saw a helicopter coming in. He said, this is not good. And anyway, his Liz Hawley, who was used to write Mountain Scene, and she was used to chronicle all the Everest climbs, known Ed since then. She hopped off and he knew it was something that was really bad. And he'd just say, look, your wife and daughter have been killed, you've got to come back and identify the bodies.
Oh, my God.
So he had to get on this plane and fly back and deal with that. And he went into, as you'd imagine, just an absolute... He was depressed for a couple of years, and he was on antidepressants. He was just trying to, wipe everything out. And I think June saved him. I mean, June sort of came into his life in June, he doesn't take no for an answer. And she was great in that sense for him. She sort of got him back on track. He was sort of he was sort of quite lost there. And I mean, what a thing to happen. And you think, and you then still spend the rest of your life. And I said to him once, I said, look, do you do all this? He built things that helped them, bridges, so they could actually get from place to place, clinics. Airstrips so they could get stuff out, get in and out, all those sort of things that he helped with. And I said to him, did you do all this because you sort of owed them for getting you up Everest? He said, no. He said, I did it because they're my friends. And there was a famous conversation where he said to them, I think it was to Mingma Sering, he said, look, what do you want? What do you want? What can I do? And he said, our children have eyes, but they cannot see. We want education. And that's when they did the first school, which was a corrugated iron hut, prefab hut, and his brother Rex and everyone, they all came over, volunteers from New Zealand, and built it. And that's how it started. The school enlarged, different schools, more and more. And that's how he did things that they could use. But he didn't feel he owed, it wasn't because he owed them, it was because he liked them. You know, they were his friends, and they Barasab, the big man, and it was just amazing. You'd be walking through these trails up in the Himalaya, you know, no roads or anything like that, and people would all come out and they put the prayer scarves around them, you know, the cutters. And at the end of these sort of things, sometimes you couldn't see his face. There'd been so many put around his neck, it's sort of coming up. He's sort of trying to see, you know. And you go to, and we went to like Rinpoche Monastery and had the Rinpoche there, who was a bit like the Dalai Lama. He'd been reincarnated X number of times, you know. And you go to these things in these like stone huts, and you're sitting on these platforms, and they bring out Tibetan tea. Now, Tibetan tea is in these big goblets, and on the top is rancid goat's milk. Yeah. And the idea was, Ed said, what you do is, you get your thing and you go, and you blow the rancid milk away and take a sip. All you're going to do is take 2 sips, that's all. Tom, meanwhile, is sitting next to us. You know, Tom doesn't realise it. And we go, Tom wants some more. Extra rancid, thank you. And you think, this is just, I just can't believe I'm here. Here's this dude, someone reincarnated, was sitting here having bloody rancid, you know, cow's milk or goat's milk, and in this sort of just mythical scene. And it was just, you know, how lucky are we? Oh, and as we came in, they had the guys with the big sort of orange sort of hats and the big long trumpets, you know, you've seen, and the red robes, you know, and then they come in, and because we were there, we're considered part of the official party, so we get all the scarves and get all the stuff and treated as, you know, yes, well, I climbed that course in '83. Yeah, it was just every, and that's what they always used to say. It was just like, you know, being in Planet Ed, it was just always an adventure. It was always an adventure.
Incredible. Hey, thanks for sharing these. Especially, have you ever told the story before about helping him pee into a tin?
Oh, yeah, I have. It's usually goody for, you know, after dinner speaking keynotes, and stuff like that. But but I tell you, without a word of a lie, I'm not embellishing it. But I still remember Edmund's shorter eyes. God.
Oh, these are great. The next card I've got here is Close Up.
Yeah.
Our paths crossed. I don't know if you remember this. There was a segment we were doing on the radio called Hugger Ginger Day.
Yeah.
And I ended up being on your show.
I think you came on
2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
2 nights in a row.
It's funny the things that go off, the things that really sort of go off. That was one of them.
Yeah, so we were encouraging people. Yeah, I think you were a ginger at the time, actually, weren't you?
Part ginger.
Moustache
was ginger.
Yeah. So we were encouraging. We were so like redheads. They've had a rough time. Like if you know a redhead, give them a hug. Yeah. And there was a dad in Christchurch with a redhead son. It ended up being like a big nationwide story.
You imagine how more of a big story be these days if they thought it was a fuss back in that climate, you know?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like you were on Close Up, this 7 p.m. TV show for 5 years at a time when TV was still like the boss.
Oh yeah, TV was, and you got it was a great. I mean, William Shatner, you know, came on. You know, he was like my old Bill. He was just a great sort of So you got this sort of, and it was still an amazing mix because you had the light and the shade and. Mind you, I keep running into people going, oh, you guys, you did that house up for my mother when she was sick. Because we just did so many. You're trying to remember every one. But there were things, you were in a position to do actually stuff and to change stuff. And you'd always be the first port of call. I remember during the Rugby World Cup, and there's big controversy over the price of the jerseys. Remember, they were charging some ridiculous price for the jerseys. And we'd worked out how it worked was that Hong Kong company made the jerseys. They sold them over here at practically full price. The company here would buy them and then put a tiny markup on them and sell them. And because they were higher tax regime here, they only had a little income and paid a little bit of tax. Whereas they made the bulk of their money from selling them to themselves from Hong Kong. No, very low tax. They made a fortune. And this is that was the. So I rang my mate who was an accountant. I said, "How does all this work?" You know, and he was going through the stuff, went through the books, and then we get this call saying, "Oh look, they want to come on the people doing with the jerseys. They're going to come on the show. Oh great, they're going to drop the price." And these guys come on. Unfortunately, one was a South African. I think the other one was a POM. And I said, "So you're going to drop the price?" "No." And I think, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" You know, the life of me, I still can't get my head around it, you know.
What was that like for you though? Because you were sort of middle-aged, I guess, when you got that show, and suddenly you become like famous. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's that sort of you get. You'd get before people were into politics or whatever, niche for things. I was political editor for quite a few years, and but with this thing, it was like, and it's like, I mean, what it's like. You'd be sitting in a restaurant. Oh, that's Dom Harvey, I thought he was supposed to be good looking, what's wrong? Oh, God, look, what's he done?
He hasn't aged well.
Yeah, he hasn't aged well, What's he buying? Oh, he's not having that for his I'll wait till I tell my friends. That was the only thing that it didn't bother me, but I always found I'd just come and say something. I mean, I had no, please, because my thing was, if you put yourself out there on the telly, you can't go, I want my privacy. No, because you're getting paid for being popular or noted or whatever. So you can't go, oh no. So if you go out and people want to talk to you, you've just got to take that. You might say, hey, look, I'll finish my dinner, come over and catch you. That sort of thing. But it used to be random stuff. I remember we were at La Zeppa one night with a bunch of mates and all about to head off to a thing. I noticed there's this woman standing next to me. Hello, carried on. Anyway, and she's sort of moving along. And she had like two friends, a couple standing over there, and going, what are you doing? Oh, I'm coming with you. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Jesus.
See ya, thanks very much. And off we went. I thought, this is just so random. Yeah, imagine that now. My night.
What was TV money like back then? What did you make at your peak? Can you say, or would you rather say?
It was probably about close to 400.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't. Remember, Judy Bailey famously was on 800,000.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
And then Susan, of course, went to the. They tried to cut hers back, and she went to the employment court.
Yeah,
and they dragged it all through. And then that was the whole thing. And then she just walked on one day and quit. She just sort of had enough of this.
There was one interview you did with Amy Winehouse's dad, Mitchell. Did he give you a bollocking?
Yeah, he.
What happened there?
Oh, because look. We started the interview, and he was strange, and I think he's quite usurious of old Amy. But anyway, he was always interested in promoting himself. And I said to him, look, as a dad, do you ever feel, I wish I could have done something, because isn't that just natural as a father? Oh, you're going to be one of those blaming me? Is that? And he just went off and he just went into this massive rant, absolute massive rant. And I'm going, no, I'm not. But I'm just saying, isn't it natural as a father? If something happened to my daughter, I think, shit, was there something I could have done to have stopped that? That's the first thing that comes.
Paternal instinct.
First thing would come into your head. But this guy, he just took exception to the thing and just went nuts.
Did that make it to air?
I don't think it did. No. I think it should have gone to air, quite frankly.
Yeah, in the spirit of, like, we talked about Holmes before with the Dennis Conner interview.
Yeah.
Something like that that's polarising.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
What makes a good interviewer?
I think letting people speak. I think it's about. Well, and that sounds sort of pretty basic and simple, but it doesn't always work. I get sick of. There's a couple of things that really annoy me. And I've been guilty of it myself. One is super long questions, Now, Dom, you've been doing this podcast for several years now. When you started, of course, you had left your partner, JJ, and that must have been quite traumatic for you. But then when you came here, you were in an electric car. And I just wonder whether you see the future of that to be, And I've asked about 10 questions, and the person's like that. Or sort of the jumping in.
What was the question?
Yeah, that's right. And I see that so often. The idea is to keep... And I tell you who was good at it. Mike Hosking, to his credit, and Heather are quite good. Just keep it short and snappy. Let the idea is to hear the other person. A lot of the tendency now is to prove how clever you are. I've got the zinger question, which is going to make me seem fantastic. But because you're trying to get that in, you've missed what the person just said. Well, I've only been a paedophile for a couple of years. Right now, your alcohol problem, Dada. It's that sort of thing. So I think you've got to. Yeah, it sounds basic, but people just don't do it. You've got to listen.
Are you able to consume media without a critical sort of lens? Or are you just sort of thinking like what I would do differently or what
you still do that. You still look and think, how the hell or why the hell did that? And then you can see exactly what people are doing. Oh, yeah, I probably would have, might have gone that way as well, And things like obvious leads. It's like when, people go, why did they ask them that? That's terrible. And sometimes, it's an obvious question that needs to be asked and you get that out of the way.
What do you do? Yeah, like how do you ask someone a question and you want a truthful answer and they're not giving a truthful answer? What's the key to getting the truth out of someone that doesn't necessarily want to give the truth?
Well, usual things, you just ask the same question over and over again in different ways.
Jack Tame 101.
Yeah, or it used to be, look, some people have said that you're an absolute prick, Dom. Now, what do you think about that?
Advocate.
Yeah, you do. It's not you. You can get away with anything just by saying that's been said. I don't know whether you've ever seen a show called Frontline.
Oh, yeah, the Australian one.
Yeah. Which was just an absolute magic show. What they did was on that, the ABC, they got a couple of their researchers and got them to apply for and got jobs over at Channel 9 as interns, unpaid interns. And they just took notes of everything. Everything you saw on that show happened. Everything on that show basically was true. And there were things they'd done. It's like you try and hide the talent from the opposition, or, the rescued yachtsman who the Navy picked up and arrives back to this big welcome. And just as they're about to wheel him out, the cameraman pushing him out on the gangplank, he plops a Channel 9 hat on his head. So all the other media, oh, fuck. But it's all of that, and that was always, I remember Bruno Lawrence teaching Mike about interviewing. No, how you do it is, it's been said. So you don't have to actually sort of slander someone. You just do it that way.
So half an hour of live TV every night for 5 years.
Yeah.
What were you like after? Like, what was the difference between a great show and a bad show? And did you beat yourself up after a bad show, or did you manage to sort of park it and get on with it?
Yeah, sort of. You beat yourself up a bit, but you do have to. You just got to come back the next day and whatever. You sort of. It's. Yeah. You look at because you've got to look at things. I never watched the shows. I very rarely watch myself on TV. Don't know why I just didn't. A lot of people pore over things and I can do this better, and it's probably quite a good thing to do to improve it. I've sort of strangely, just didn't.
And then, so you're doing that for 5 years. Then it was cut and replaced with
7 Sharp.
7 Sharp. Yeah.
And that was the Jesse Mulligan.
That's right, Jesse Mulligan,
Ali Moore,
Greg Boyd.
Yeah.
It was like based on the Australian show, The Project, which eventually came to TV3. What was that like being publicly dumped?
Yeah, well,
is that humiliating?
Well, yeah, it has to be. Because they were going, how do you want us to? How do you want us to? Say, you want to move on to other projects or something like that? I said, stuff that. Everyone's going to. I'm not going to hide behind that. You want change? That's your prerogative. Okay, that's the way it's going to play. It's not. No one's going to believe I want to spend more time with the family or this, some bullshit thing like that. So I was rather upfront, and I think, as I said at that time, people all around the country were losing their jobs who had no chance of getting something else. If you were a miner down the South Island or a paper mill worker, your chances of getting something. So, and I'll get a payout and I'll be quite comfortable. Thanks very much. So don't feel sorry for me. And I've had a fantastic time. Am I pissed off? Yeah, of course. But it goes with the territory. You knew when you got the job. See, this was the thing. When you got that job, there was nowhere else to go. You were at the top of the tree. There was nowhere else. Anything else is going to be a drop down, whatever. But there was no logical place to go after that. So, and you knew, and new CEO came in, wanted to make their mark. I mean, they cocked it up with the original 7 Sharp. It just so they in effect went back to the same format, but with 2 people.
It's an interesting position to be in. Like, I've had a couple of coaches on the podcast, like John Hart and Tony Kemp, and it's like a lot of people lose their jobs. Redundancies are a very common thing, but for it to happen in the public arena, like,
we had
adds another.
TV3 had a film crew outside. Karen Rutherford was out there. I went out and talked to them. But what's the point? It's gonna, it's there. There's no point just trying to hide around it. So just front up and And, and you could have been all sort of bitter and twisted and whatever, but look, end of the day, they run the channel, they want to do something.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake, but, and we were rating our socks off and all that stuff, but,
Yeah, there was nothing wrong with the product. It was going perfectly well. Were you, when the new show started, it was panned in the beginning.
Yeah.
Did you get a sense of glee about that?
No, yeah, of course. Of course you did. And it was, sorry, because, Greg Boyd I loved. I thought he's a great guy.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, and I wonder how much part of that, was he apparently wasn't treated very well on that show. But
But so you're 56 at the time when that happens. Yeah, how do you bounce back from that sort of adversity? Must have been scary because I'm at that sort of age now. Like I'm 53, and you know the options sort of get less, and you get to the thin end of the wedge.
Start thinking of an exit plan, Dom. Yeah. Well, when you sort of thought, well, at the time you'd sort of finished, you got paid out. You know, not sort of, you got what you were entitled to and no more.
$500,000 the internet says.
Well, only because that's all included all your super and all the stuff in your what's name scheme. So it stuffed all that up as well. So you'd had the super thing going, and then that gets cashed up, and then that disappears into the house renos, and you're back to the start again.
Yeah. Oh, so is that accurate? Like a $500,000 payout at the time?
If you include all my super, and no, but what it was, it was a standard thing. It was a maximum of 22 weeks under the redundancy agreement. So it wasn't like you got the big, give me
John Hawkesby's $6 million payout.
Cheapest, that was the contract. That's why contracts since could never allow that. In theory, never allow that to happen again. But yeah, it was. So I went on a trip, went overseas, and caught up the whole lot of mates and people I've been in London with, and had an absolute ball, and came back, and then ended up sort of doing some stuff for Radio Live on the Sunday. Did a Sunday show for them, which was fun. And radio, oh God, this is great. And then ended up with doing 9 to 12 on Radio Live.
That's right, you replaced Sean Plunkett.
Yeah. In fact, Sean rang me and said, I've just been sacked, apply for the job, So anyway, and that, I really enjoyed that. Mary Putnam was my producer, just magic woman. And every day be something different, and just that immediacy, and then when there's no calls on the line and you've got to keep padding away. But yeah, radio was great. But again, it's a perilous occupation.
Yeah, so what have you been doing since then? Since Radio Live? Just bits and bobs?
Yeah, bits and bobs. I did some work for the licensed immigration advisors. I was doing podcasts, Zoom webinars for them, which didn't involve much, but it was just, can I do their conference? But a lot of conferences and after-dinner speaking. Where does after-dinner speech? Going down to Christchurch. I think it was something. It was a fundraiser for one of the racing clubs, whatever. And this is back in the 2020s, I think. It was still Jacinda. And I did it on Prime Ministers I've known. This is where Barry got his idea from, of course. And anyway, so I went through the different ones, and pluses and minuses, and Geoffrey Palmer, and I used a bit of. Kai said he wanted a audio-visual presentations. I had a bit of clips of that, and like the Geoffrey Palmer stuff. And I got to Jacinda Ardern. I said, well, look, she's got a lot of faults, Jacinda Ardern, but I also think a lot of the criticism is just sexism and misogyny. You can get the ripple rumour went through the room. Anyway, carried on. After it finished, I was standing out in the foyer, and out comes this little old lady. She must be in her 80s. She looked like everyone's sweet little grandmother, Blue rinse, twin set pearls, the whole thing. That Jacinta, she's just ruining the country. I said, really? I said, how's that? No one wants to come here. No one wants to go here. She's just a cunt. And I'm just stunned for a second. I'm thinking, did I hear that word come out of the sweet little old lady's mouth? And at that very moment, her feet went out from underneath her, and she fell flat on her ass. Through the door, Dad, who'd gone to get the car with the blue blazer and the golf club tie. Here's Mum. It was just one of the most extraordinary.
Instant karma.
I thought, what has it come to that our 80-plus-year-old grandmothers are calling the Prime Minister a cunt? I mean, I could expect that, in Hawke's Bay somewhere maybe, or whatever. I mean, there was a really visceral hatred for her.
You had quite a lot to do with the leaders over there. You did those leaders debates, eh?
Yeah.
What is your perspective on the various leaders that you had relationships with?
John, I mean, I agree, but I think with Barry, I think Callum Clark probably was the best performing Prime Minister,
Was she intimidating when you had her on the show?
Yeah, I mean, you knew you got to be careful, but she's And because she'd survived so much, and they nearly rolled her, she had to sort of hang in there and all that stuff. She'd sort of got through Fort, stayed for that job, and very, very, and she would brief up she would know all the stuff. You ask her something, bang, she'd just come back with it straight away. John Key, just so people, it was personable. John Key, everyone liked him, And I remember in one of the debates, so here's this guy who's a multi-millionaire, money market guy, data, all this stuff. And I remember one of the debates, I said to John Key, do you know what it means to be poor? And he said, when you're sitting around the table on a Friday night, adding up the bills, and they're more than what's coming in, that's when you're poor. And it just resonated with so many people, even though this guy would never be sitting around on a Friday night, whatever. But he knew exactly that sort of get to the end of the week, and fuck, we've got no money sort of thing, all that sort of, that so many people. And so people really sort of related to him. And Clark got one of the debates, Clark, and I remember saying at the end, I hope we think this is a great, oh yes, no, we must have more of these, this is great. And then she came outside and the media basically said that John Key had won the debate. Oh, it's Mark Sainsbury's fault. And she suddenly launches into me after saying, not 5 minutes previously, how well this had gone and how good it had been. It was all my fault that I didn't control it properly. Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh, my God.
But I quite understand, that she took the political way. You've got to try and knock this back so you find something else.
What are your thoughts on the current state of New Zealand media?
Oh, well, it's just sort of shrinking, and it's what really does worry me a lot is this whole the deep fake stuff. What can you actually trust anymore? So that's the thing. I mean, the best way I think of somehow saving the media is somehow being able to have an integrity that cannot be challenged, because you look at something, I mean, we could make videos, I can make, there's that technology, you could do this and suddenly add on to the end someone who looks and sounds exactly like me saying, I hate sort of whatever and I, whatever.
That's wild.
And you just go, so everything you look at, you've got to think, is that real or not, So, and it's, I used to think the main advantage of, things like, especially with, digital news and stuff was curation. It's sort of it saves you. If you're time poor, having to go through everything, it's a curation that you sort of trust. But trust is going to be the big thing. And
do you still trust the media?
Yes, I mean the traditional media. You still see mistakes, and you still see, and there's alignments and different things. I mean, like I switch around a bit, but like ZB is like a third arm of the National Party. They're just constantly, Labor's not fit to govern, and this and that, and data, and they're putting the boot in. Well, maybe it's quite right, and they would see themselves as a centre right, sort of thing. But it sort of goes against the grain a little bit. You sort of feel a little bit uncomfortable with that, because we always brought up to try and be neutral. It was always no one should ever know your politics. That was always the thing.
Well, it's like you talked before about Ghana and his not wanting to vote at all.
Because that doesn't change. They in their minds they have their own feelings one way or another. But it's being able to sort of transcend that and do it without appearing to be biased.
What do you think social media has done to the public conversation in New Zealand?
Look, I just don't. I mean, it's almost like it's the genie's out of the bottle, isn't it? You sort of. It's sort of and just on screen time, mind you. I keep thinking back when I was growing up, it was TV. We just spent all our time sitting in front of the TV. It was going to make us blind, and which science later proved that didn't. But but now it's just everyone's on their phones. And the thing that really annoys me is, like, I could be, say, out there in the green room and I would talk to something. I'll send you a text. I won't actually come and ever speak. So we've lost that lot of that sort of that one-on-one. Was so reliant on that. People just sit there constantly on their phones. Mind you, screen time gets addictive. I play internet cards a lot, and I can find myself getting obsessive with it. You can see how you can just... So I'll be telling Hunter, God, you're on the bloody computer all the time doing your gaming, and I'm thinking, I've just spent an hour doing exactly the same thing.
There's always... There's no reason to ever be bored anymore?
No. But everyone, my nephew was around, he said, look, I've got to stop it because I'm just sitting there doom scrolling, just sitting there, and suddenly, all this time's gone past. So people are sort of getting conscious of it. But yeah, it's like ringing. See, that's so dad, isn't it? So I'm going to ring because I know the person will answer the phone and I'll get an answer straight away instead of texting. Oh, can you do that? Oh, yeah, what time? Well, maybe this data. One phone call says, want to meet for lunch when? Good, see ya.
You can sort so much out so much quicker just by jumping on the phone, eh?
Yeah, but it's seen as, it's sort of very old.
Even, I find myself feeling older. Like someone will message me saying, "Oh, are you free for a phone call?" And it's like, just fucking call.
Yeah.
If I'm not free, I won't answer.
And that's, I mean, the whole wokey thing too, it's sort of... Look, in some ways, respect and there was things like that and kindness and all those things, there was their place. But it's sort of like... People are terrified of doing anything. They're terrified of upsetting people and all this sort of thing. It just, and then that then enables the extremists on the other side to go, look at this is terrible, and they can sort of push back the other way. But it is like, people won't go out of there. It's like people who won't leave the office. I mean, it used to be get out there and go and talk to people. No, okay, now you can converse by texting and different stuff. But also, there's a lot of stuff you wouldn't necessarily want a record of. If you're dealing
absolutely.
With things, way things get. We're now going to. The thing that I never could work out was Nixon. When he had his fall, which he had been it was because he chose to tape all the stuff in the Oval Office. Why didn't he just wipe the tapes before they were subpoenaed? In fact, he admits later he should have done that. I couldn't understand that. Why didn't he just wipe them?
Yeah.
Because he wanted it as for history. And in many ways, Nixon was a fantastic president in terms of foreign policy. But
well, what advice would you give to a young journalist coming through now? If someone came to you and said they're thinking about becoming a journalist, would you talk them out of it, or would you? Is there a future in that industry?
I'd have a trade on the side, maybe. I don't know. They'll be churning all these people out of the schools. Where are they going to go to? Where are they going to get work? What is this all going to mean? I like the New York Times, but I like to look at sort of some of the, more, look at the Conservative, the Telegraph, and Fox, and you got to sort of try and keep across everything. Not as much as not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But it's all perspective, isn't it? Because you and I could both be looking at different things and have got a totally different perspective. It's like we can't understand why do all these people vote for Trump. Well, you're not seeing it as they're seeing it. They're seeing it as the evil, legacy media are sort of telling all these lies and things like that. That's the image they're getting, and that's the view. And that's the whole thing. But we're all looking at things, I see a giraffe, you see a monkey,
Yeah. But the ability to think critically has sort of gone, I think, in a way, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, if you've got like a different stance, especially politically, it's like they just won't want to associate with you at all.
Well, see, then there's the whole AI thing. Will that stop you thinking altogether? Instead of forming your own opinions and looking at stuff, you almost present it as something as this is it, and that's a bit of a worry.
Yeah.
It's that, I mean, forming opinions is the key to it. And you used to do that after exposure to different things and listening to different sides, and sometimes your opinions, I think your views also sometimes change. Ideas you had when you were in your 20s, you look at it in your 50s from a totally different viewpoint.
Oh, they do. You're changing and evolving as a human being all the time. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
This has been a great chat. This
Good.
has been really cool. How's it for you? You enjoy reflecting?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's good. And as I said, it's a good format,
What's a question that I haven't asked you that I perhaps should have?
Is it true you're the greatest lover in history?
No, I know the answer to that one. Your wife told me last weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
Fell into that one, Sainso.
It's funny because when I was a practicing journalist, if I could put it like that, you are always conscious that you didn't want to. But you try to keep your independence. You didn't want to sort of leave a crack open for different things. It really does. Nowadays, it just doesn't matter anymore.
Has your definition of success changed with age? What does success mean to you now compared to, say, when you were 50 or 30?
Yeah, well, it's funny because, on one hand, I had incredible, not being big-headed, but just being realistic, in terms of where you got to.
Mate, it's been a wild
success
career
in the media.
Yeah.
Now it's sort of, it's more sort of success and feeling good about what you're doing. So I get a bit of a buzz out of doing the Men's Health Week thing. That, you're giving something back. but genuinely, you can actually make a difference. Only maybe a little one, but you can still make a difference, and that's important.
Oh, so just pumping up your tyres a bit, you give back in other ways as well. Like, I don't know if you still do this, but for a time you were volunteering with the SPCA.
I still do that. Yeah. And got another dog picked up. We try and foster out the dogs over Christmas. So I go and I do a shift 8. It used to be 8 to 12, 8 to 11, and you're basically shoveling shit out of the kennels and cleaning them out and feeding the dogs. And there's nothing more grounding than on a cold Wellington morning shoveling bloody shocking dog shit out of a kennel to brings you down to earth. So that is actually quite good. And dogs are fantastic things, but they said I'd already had one dog from there, and they said, can we just foster a dog over Christmas, and brought this thing home. Beautiful dog. It was part whippet. I forgot the fact it could jump over the 6.5 metre fence, but anyway, bring it home, and we had to bring my dog in first to make sure they got on all right. I got quite a reactionary dog, and we bought this thing, Apple. Well, the first thing it did was eat the Christmas cake that belonged to only thing my wife wanted was this Christmas cake from the Clearville bakery. Got it out of the cardboard box, out of the welded plastic, sort of heavy plastic bag, ate it, and then shat all over the new duvet upstairs. And then after my favourite meat is a ribeye on the bone. I got the great big ribeye, second mortgage. And that was for Christmas. We had a few waifs and strays there, and we only got through a couple of bones in. The dog up onto the island, chewed over the whole thing. You couldn't even go, oh, no one's looking, I'll just cut off the bit that it ate, we're never going to know. No, whole thing, chewed it over. So we adopted it.
As you do. Oh, yeah, I read an article about you yesterday, so around about the same time as you lost the 7 Sharp job, you lost a pet as well.
Oh, that was, yeah.
What's your pet grief? This is something I'm dreading. My little dog is somewhere in the studio with us today. He's 12 now, and every day I think about the day that he's going to die.
Yeah, well, I'd sworn I wouldn't get another dog. We had a dog, a Labrador, or a golden retriever called Robbie, who was a lovely dog. He died. I thought, no, I'm just not going to get another dog.
It's too painful.
And then, but we got this one from the, when I was volunteering there, called Robbie, who was part Vizsla and loved coming in the car. Would sit in the car, wouldn't get out, but had this thing where he would roll up his lips and bare his teeth. And people like Claire Delore came round one day, and through the hole in the gate comes this thing and the teeth rolling up. Can you come? So anyway, but they were mimicking smiling. It was not to bite people. He thinks this is the way of things. It was such a fantastic dog. Went with me everywhere, but it had an undetected heart defect and just dropped. Oh God, we were just heartbroken. Heartbroken. Just losing a dog's like losing a kid, you know. And it was. I just. So we're not getting another one. And then Hunter and Arabella came back with Penny from the SPCA one day. So sometime later, but yeah, dogs and those fantastic things. They're just so unconditional love, you know.
Yeah, they never hold a grudge.
No.
Like when I was working in radio, I think like pet grief is not something I would have understood. Like if someone I worked with needed bereavement leave for a pet, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you on about?" But I fully get it now.
Take the week off.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. It's unbelievable. Have your kids, your twins, got kids? Are you a grandparent?
No progress on that front. Arabella works in the movie industry up here. She's so funny. And so smart. I remember once I got a birthday card from her. I might have turned 40 or something like that. Dear Mark. I've always called us Mark and Ramona.
Really?
Yeah, always.
Why?
Just
was that parent-led?
Yeah, I think so. Whatever he just always did. Dear Mark, I hope you're not too depressed having turned 40 and still not having learned a foreign language or how to play a musical instrument.
How old was she at the time?
About 13 or something. She was quite... exactly. I could say, where did you get that? Oh, hang on a minute. You know, that's the funny thing with kids, isn't it? When you think, where did you get that? Oh, I know exactly where you got that from.
Yeah, it's kind of a reflection, isn't it? It's a mirror.
Yeah, as Hunter is just, he's fantastic. He's different, and he's back living at home. I love having him at home.
How old is he now?
38.
Right.
37, 38 this year.
Oh, that's cool. You got a good relationship with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's sort of it's they're your kids, whatever. But it's sort of it's funny with Hunter because you can still fall into I'm your dad, but you're 37 years old. You know, why am I talking to you like Hunter? You haven't done emptied the dishwasher. You know, because you just fall into those things. That's what you got to watch the most.
What do you think your best and worst habits are?
Procrastination would be my worst habit. That's something we were talking before about sort of, you know, I just getting this thing where I was, and not like people like Richard O'Brien's one of my great mates. I love Richard. But I just didn't ring him for months. And other friends.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
I met him in London. He's amazing, man.
How old is he now?
83.
Shit, he'd be a great podcast guest. Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's fantastic. And he's raconteur. You could just sit and listen to Richard for hours.
Oh, I might have to get you to tee something up there.
Yeah. That'll be a finders for your course. But, I was finding I was doing this thing and not engaging with friends and whatever. And I thought, shit, I run Men's Health Week. I tell other guys, if this happens, you've got to go and see it. So I did. I went and saw my doctor. I said, look, I'm doing this. I'm not feeling great. I'm feeling a bit off. I've got no interest in doing these things. And he said, look, he said, you're depressed. He said, I've had it. He said, antidepressants is what, I don't think you need counselling. I think what you need is this. So we tried with I was hoping they're going to be, something pretty cool, but no, you don't notice it.
Oh, a slow release thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But
you're still on them now?
I've only just noticed it. No, I'm not really noticing. You don't get any. I tell you don't get the shit. Fuck, what's happened? My life's out of control. You don't get any of those things anymore. But you don't want to be sort of neutralised or.
Does it just sort of dull the edges so you don't get too high, don't get too low?
I honestly don't really know, but I just then think back on, I actually haven't had so much of this. But the fact you just got to front up with it and deal with it, because you can't tell other guys to do it and then not do it yourself, which is crazy. So
are you okay? Are you okay with vulnerability? Like, have you got some friends that you can talk to?
Oh yeah,
about?
no, I've got a couple of really sort of close friends. But but you do. I can see how this happens. Where you can go through days without talking to someone. And you think, jeepers, this is not good. So that's why I decided, I've got to deal with this, front up to it. And I've got a fantastic doctor in Wellington I've used for some of the podcasts, Nick Oscroft. And that's the other thing. We talked before about guys not, finding a doctor or can't afford a doctor or can't access a doctor. To get a doctor who you actually click with and he understands you, that is the secret. That's the secret.
Do you lie to him about your alcohol consumption?
No, nor anything else.
Are you honest about your standard drinks per week?
Yeah. And I remember going into him once someday and saying, and it sounds a funny, odd sort of thing, but I'd taken what I thought was one of my diabetes pills. And it was actually something else that a friend of mine had put in mine.
Oh, like a Viagra or something?
No, worse.
Oh, worse?
Not worse, but you know what I mean. It was, and anyway, and he had quite a good laugh. So that means you can be totally open about anything, So...
Are you, have you found you got more emotional as you get older? Do you cry much?
I tell you, the one thing is guaranteed to make me cry. This is absolutely... I can do a bit of soppy mood. It's funny, but the one thing is, have you ever listened to The Selfish Giant? The story of the Selfish Giant. It used to be on the kids' request sessions in the morning, And the Selfish Giant lived there, and this kid comes into the garden and all blossomed into flower, and it's Jesus, basically, Now, it's written by Oscar Wilde, And then one day he comes in and it's all winter and the child's at the bottom of the tree and who has dared to hurt thee? I always remember that line in this thing. And the Selfish Giant gets all sort of wound up about it. It's a beautiful story. Every time I hear it, I cannot listen to that story without crying. I don't know what it is. It's just, Google it and you go back. It's called The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. Fantastic. But some things do. I mean, I get, I don't sort of sit there and just suddenly turn into, just blub away for nothing. It's healthy to cry, I think.
I think it's good. It's it's an emotion that's good to lean into, I think. Yeah. Well, why do you think that particular story sets you off?
I don't know. It's just sort of, I don't know what it is. And it's all about sort of injustice and sort of the cruelty and everything like that. But it was just, it always... it used to be this thing on the Sunday mornings, the kids' request session, be Sparky and the Talking Train and the Little Prince, which was the statue and got the swallow to take all the gold off him and give it away to the poor. Got the swallow to take all the gold off him and give it to the poor people, and that's another... They're sort of designed, I think, to sort of, pull at the emotional heartstrings.
Well, doing its job.
Yeah.
Doing its job for an almost 70-year-old man.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What is your biggest fear? What are you afraid of?
Well, like most people, I think I'm afraid I'm getting dementia. What did I come into this room for? No, it's starting! I've always been paranoid about the fact... Would you be conscious, if you got dementia or whatever, would you be aware that you were starting to lose it? Would that could be the worst thing. But I remember I had on this neurologist one time when I was doing the talkback, and I said, look, I'm convinced of, I've got, I'm getting dementia, I'm forgetting things. He said, look, the difference is this, if you can't find your car keys, that's just age and forgetfulness. If you don't know what the car keys are for, that's dementia. So, and he said, you're getting older, and when you think about it, all those memories in your brain, so you're talking to somebody who's 20. You've got 50 years more storage taken up there, and it's like people say, "Oh, listen," or like you say, but I do, remember that when I was on the show with you, and we did that. Well, it's trying to, hang on, let's. But the Huggy Gagger thing was, that's certainly I couldn't forget. That would always be the thing of losing it without realising it, I often wonder whether you'd. Like die by choice, what I certainly don't want to end up sort of, you see people when they're just, they're a mess, I don't want to remember people like that.
No, it's unfair, especially if someone's had like a proud and dignified sort of life, and then that's the lasting memory of them. Yeah, it's awful. Do you have any regrets?
No, I think you've got to, there's all sorts of, things you can regret. It's wasted energy, regrets, I think, I mean, there might be things you always wish I'd, got to do this or got to do that or saw this or saw that. But no, would I change things? No. And as I said, I had such a fantastic, because it was like going to the thing why you're at TVNZ so long, it was like going to a new job. So you went from, researcher to a reporter to a documentary maker to a current affairs reporter to a political editor to a foreign correspondent, and then end up doing the old, like the close-up gig. So it's like all these different things. And that kept it sort of fresh and different, and you had a great time, And we used to have fun. We used to get out there. It was the old work hard, play hard, And thank God there weren't camera phones and everything else like that. We probably would have been fired or in jail. But there was and there was a belief. We believed in what we're doing, and we believed in the standards of what we should have, and that you had to treat people fairly.
I think you did as well. You always did.
Yeah. Well, that's what you like to think.
What does a good day look like to you now?
Waking up. I'm this bit. I need to be involved in something. You see, this is why I'd really like to do another job somewhere.
Like a full-time job?
Oh, not even. Well, ideally it'd be a part-time job, but I'd like to be someone's spruik or entertainer. I love entertaining. I just absolutely love that. I'd love doing stuff. I'd like involved, doing training and different things. But I still want to. I want to do things. I don't want to just sit around because I just get bored. As I say, idle hands. So as long as you
need a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
You got to be busy. So you got to do stuff, and it's and that's part of the thing. Got to start, generating stuff. So now I've seen how easy it is to become a multi-millionaire running a podcast.
What about the Mayoral thing? There was a rumour last year that you were going to be. I was
approached to stand. I thought about it because I was really so depressed about Wellington and where it was at. I thought, and it needed a buoy up as much as anything. But then I looked at it realistically and thought, I don't have the financial skills to be able to look at a balance sheet and look at different things and be able to argue the toss with things. I think I'd be a great cheerleader for Wellington. I could do that, blindfolded. But and I didn't necessarily. And I thought also, you needed the national small end government connections to be able, because Wellington, you look at it, something's going to happen. They can't afford to do everything themselves. There's going to be some accommodation with government. So you need someone who could traverse, and as soon as Little put his hand up, you knew, well, that's the best bet for it. So I was quite happy just to step back. And boy, was I pleased that I made that decision. Can you imagine it? Right, Mark, go and swim in the harbour. Go and explain why this is 120 million over budget. Go and do this, go and do that. No. So I think the best person for the job is in there. Yeah. But I think Wellington does need a buoy up. I love Wellington. It's a great city. It's challenging,
It's kind of lost its mojo a bit,
It has lost its. It's funny, you talk to people all the time and they just say it. It used to be at one stage, that greatest little city. But it needs to get its mojo back. And, yeah.
Because there was a time there, God, it's a long time ago now, but they had that slogan, absolutely, positively Wellington, which was iconic.
Yeah.
That was probably peak Wellington.
Yeah.
You'd still have the energy and the heartbeats, as Paul Henry would say, for a job like that?
Well, then that's the other thing you do seriously have to consider, because that was the other thing. And what I did was I went and talked to a number of people about it. People who've been mayor, people who've been involved with the council. I said, I want to know what's involved in the work and stuff. And the reality is, you'd be, every weekend, there'd be Island Bay Fete. You got to go and cut the ribbon there. And Sunday you'd be doing it's a blessing for the animals at, Faro Bay. And you would not have a lot of time off.
Yeah.
You would have to be pretty scrupulous in your personal life, You couldn't sort of afford to, get out on the rantan or whatever. Although when
Tory Whānau did okay.
Well, when Mark Blumsky was mayor, that was one of his strengths. You'd see him out at night, and he was great. They loved it. He really kept Wellington going, that whole nightlife thing. So I think I said he made the best decision there, and I think Little is sort of Andrews probably is the best chance we've got. But
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What do you hope people feel after spending time with you?
We all have that thing. We all want to be liked, don't we? We all have every single.
100%.
I don't know anyone who doesn't want. Well, apart from Paul Henry, who says he's happy not to be liked. I doubt it. But yeah, we always want people coming. Oh yeah, he's not a bad guy. That's what you want. He's an egotistical prick.
I think people that are drawn to the media definitely have that gene, maybe more than others.
Yeah. It is, and he's a funny old cat, Paul. Very strange.
Have you had much to do with him?
Oh, sort of yes and no. I mean, what was it? Because when I started there, and we first met up, really doing a promo shoot for TVNZ, on top of Mount Eden and sitting in a Mark I Zephyr convertible or something, and got chatting away. And I said to him, I'm just going to say one name. And I mentioned this woman's name. Oh, how do you know about that? He's a staffer at TVNZ. I said, everyone knows about that, Paul. Everyone knows all the people you've slept with since you've been here. I just want to let you know. Because they did, places would go round, and he had this reputation, And he's going, what? But he always wanted that job. And I then said what a disgrace it was that I got it and how I was hopeless.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah. In his book, he just would. No, I would never do that to someone else. But look, Paul's Paul, So, but he sort of got away with it, but sort of never forgave, I think, Bill or any of them for giving me the gig. It was down to him and I getting it.
Right. I missed that completely.
Yeah.
Oh, he wouldn't have lasted 5 years though. Like he gets bored so easily, doesn't he? He'd do it for a couple of years and then be bored.
I quite like. He is a funny guy.
Oh yeah, I've had him on the podcast. I love him. I think he's bloody great. But then I don't have that sort of feud or that beef with him.
Yeah, well, it was just sort of Anyway,
is legacy something you think about at all? No, don't give a shit.
No. I mean, it's the only thing is, as I used to like to say to Jeremy, well, I'm the last of the one host presenters at TVNZ. You have to share your show with Hillary.
Are you quite close with Jeremy Wells?
Oh yeah, I have been over the years. He used to, when I was doing close up, they used to come up to and had the flat on top of the above Starbucks there on the corner of Queen Street, used to hang out. He was great fun, and I used to had him on election night broadcasts and that sort of stuff. So I really like Jeremy. He's a great talent. And I mean, can anyone who's listening go and Google the worst of EML, and you'll see Jeremy Wells farming Maori on the rolling hills. I mean, I cannot believe what they got away with on that show.
EML, eating media. Oh, did you work with Phil Smith?
Yeah, well, I knew Phil really well.
On the Home Show. I had him on the podcast a couple of months ago. So we talked about the birth and the idea of eating media lunch and some of the stories they did and how they got away with it. Yeah. The Māori porn.
The first porn. And they did it so well. And of course, all the graphics and and all the behind the scenes stuff, of course, Yeah.
Are you proud of yourself?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I never think about it like that. I'm not. I don't. I'm not disappointed in myself. Touch wood. So I've never.
Why is it too difficult to say you're proud of yourself?
Well, no, it's not difficult to say it, but I suppose I always used to. eschew that sort of ego thing. Yet the funny thing, well, that's a bit odd taking a job like that, was part of it. But as I said, I tried. I could see that albatross around people's neck. We become so much belonging to the public that it's sort of you don't have any other life. But it was a real privilege. I got to do amazing things. I met amazing people, did stuff. It was a great time, and those years will never repeat.
Yeah.
So even if I got a call now from TV and said, "Sorry, Mark, we made a big mistake. Can you come back?" It's never going to be like it was. No,
it's a snapshot. It's a moment in time.
Yeah.
But why is it so hard to say you're proud of yourself? Like you're almost 70 years old.
Oh well, I don't feel pride comes before a fall.
You've only been married once. You've hung on to the same woman for 40 years. You've got adult kids. I'm not just talking about the career. Like it's been a bloody good life. You never hear anyone apart from Paul Henry that says a bad word about you.
Yeah.
Like the impact that you've had in the 69 years.
Yeah, no. So I'm happy to get through. I mean, as I said, I think it's in our nature. We all want to be. No one wants to be disliked. I can remember once when I went to journalism schools the same year as Steve Braunius and who else was in our year? Kathy Edmonds. But anyway, Steve Braunius, and I remember he wrote a column once and talked about the odious Mark Sainsbury.
What does odious mean?
Odious means awful, horrible. Odious. Ooh, odious. Fran was our year too, of course. But yeah, and I thought, you prick. But then I realised he dissed on everyone. There was equal opportunity. It wasn't just me, so just at the time. And then I run, how are you, mate? How are you getting on? Hey, hang on a minute. You were calling me odious in your column there. But you just got to let that go. But it was because he was an equal opportunity insulter. He would have a crack at everyone. Mm-hmm. But it always amazed me, that. Yeah. So you do. I mean, we're all, whatever. You look much bigger on screen was always the other thing. Jesus, I'm big enough as I am now. But.
Well, this has been a fun couple of hours. I think you're looking great.
Yeah, well, I feel good. But I get over and over, you're right, Really? But as my doctor said, for the first time in my life, I'm probably on a correct BMA. The other thing is I've stopped going to the gym and stuff like that, so I need to actually, lose muscle tone. So I've got to start. Next time you see me, I'll be...
Oh, no, you just need sort of functional muscles.
Yeah.
There's a book by a guy called Dr. Peter Artier called Outlive, which I really love, and it talks about working out the things you want to be doing at, say 80, like lifting a suitcase in an overhead carrier, and, you need to do the exercises that are going to enable you to do that in the future.
Mate of mine just went to a funeral the other day, and the guy died after doing exactly that. He was on a plane in his 80s getting this conk, hit the deck.
Oh, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think you're looking great. You got young energy. Like you came in here today and you had a cool leather jacket on and your layered clothing.
And the leather jacket, I love that leather jacket because it belonged to a mate of mine, a guy called Andy Gibb, who was an editor. I mean, he was one of those guys, he saved my ass so many times. We went out to do a story, you could come back with all tapes. Make this work, Andy. And he would. And he was a genius and he was the funniest guy I ever met. He died a couple of years back. And I was rounded to seeing at his wife's house, Liz, and she said, "Oh, Andy's," and he had this leather jacket I always coveted. And he said, "Andy's jacket, no, it's still here." I said, "I won't fit it." He was a lot skinnier in those days than me. He said, he went downstairs, got it, put it on, fitted like a glove. Beautiful, made in Scotland, flying jacket. Loved that jacket. And I'd spent the previous 2 weeks, I kid you not, obsessively trying to find the exact same jacket. It must have been because it just reminded me, when he died, look, I want to get a jacket. I want one like Andy's. And so I wear it all the time. It's
that's the one.
That's the one.
That is just like the Chilled song.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end it.
I think so.
Is there any final words, anything you want to say? Or
Well, guys... Go to menshealthweek.co.nz, just log on and do Watch Your Score. Because if even one person watching this goes and does it, it could save your life. That's what it's about. And
you need to be looking at that camera.
I like it. Is it? Oh, sorry.
That's the wide
Guys, if you do one thing, get on to menshealthweek.co.nz and do What's Your Score. Good on you. Hey, thanks, Dom.
You're a good man,
Sainso.
Yeah, thank you so much, mate. This has been a lot of fun.
I can never forgive what you did to those gingers.